Alright. Karibuni tena ndani ya One Mic Show. Na ni furaha kujiunga nanyi wapenzi wasikilizaji, tukiwa tumekuandalia taarifa za kusisimua, muziki wa kata viungo na kindumbwe cha siasa au politics ukipenda. We are streaming live on Facebook from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington, D.C. and will shortly be going live on YouTube. So please call all your YouTube friends. Now, please remember to subscribe to both our YouTube and Facebook pages at The One Mic Show. And then follow us on Instagram at One Mic Show. And we are also taking live calls tonight at 202-683-4570 and press *5 to speak. So please save that number. Now, later tonight, we'll talk about how to convert Kenya's new civic awareness into political action. We've previously seen familiar moments in our history that tended to fizzle out. How can we make the current one consequential and impactful? Now, feel free to start dropping comments below with questions you'd like Morara Kebaso to address tonight, because we've brought him close to you. Na bila kusahau, tunapokea mziki toka DJ wetu machachari mleta habari DJ Omoshfire, na tutadunda kule viwanjani na Mika Och jezi yake nambari 7 mgongoni akituletea habari za michezo. Na moja kwa moja toka Kilimanjaro Studios ni mimi mtangazaji na mwana habari wako mpendwa Ali Badawi. Kwetu wananiita mteule na wengi mniite mjukuu wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui na sibagui. Karibuni.
Now, let's talk politics.
Now, this hour we'll be talking to Civic Educator Morara Kebaso about his work exposing dozens of white elephant projects. He'll talk about the economic impact of corruption and how it directly impacts our pocketbooks out here in the diaspora. Morara will also tell us how Kenyans in the US can join in the fight. So please drop a comment below and tell us where you are tuned in from. I'm your host and producer, Ali Badawi, and it's Friday the 13th of September, and we are streaming live from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington, D.C. Now, please remember to follow The One Mic Show on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and we are now on TikTok. And on panel with me tonight is Mr. One Mic Kamakawa. We have our sports anchor Mika Och who will be joining us via Zoom. We also have a guest host tonight, Val Githai. You've seen her before in studio. And our resident DJ is none other than Omoshfire. And also not forgetting that our super producer is Mubelwa Wabandio. Now, I want to welcome all the guests who are already tuned in. I can see already so many people are already live with us, tuned in and waiting to know what's going to happen tonight. I can see Sleodwar, Karibu Sana, and I can also see SC Simon all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, tuned in. I can see Felista Nduta tuned in. Missed you guys, I had to wait. So karibu sana Felista Nduta, that's our very good video editor. Kama kuna kazi zako za video editing na nini, she does an amazing job all the way, Gen Z from Nairobi, Kenya. So karibuni sana. And then Sambaza podcast is also in the building. Asanteni sana. And YouTube, we're going to get to you. I know there are already some people tuned in on YouTube. We are going to be getting there very soon. Sambaza hapa anasema leo ni leo. And Alex Mushugia anasema Mashua from Oregon. So we already have people from Oregon tuned in. So feel free to drop a comment. Let us know where you're tuned in from. And tonight is where you're going to be putting your mouth. Where is it your money where your mouth is, or your mouth where your money is? I think you understand what I mean. I think you understand what I mean. And we're going to get started because we have so much to cover. I can see also Jacob Korir is tuned in from Bel Air, tuned in. So Bel Air, Fresh Prince, California. I'm Bel Air, Maryland.
Bel Air, Maryland.
So be specific, Jacob Korir. Hapo amewacha pending deliberately. And then Lawrence Kihanya all the way from Baltimore. Anasema let's go. So to get started, from the moment innocent protesters got shot outside parliament buildings, things have not been the same in Kenya. Now, fed up with rampant theft of taxpayer funds by politicians and deterioration of essential social services, a wave of civic awareness has inspired young Kenyans into action. The Vampire Diaries, a series that's been trending on social media, has exposed how government officials have been looting billions from taxpayers. Now, through phantom projects launched by President Ruto, the Vampire Diaries has shown how these taxpayer-funded projects barely get off the ground after launch. Now, the series also linked senior government officials involved in this scheme designed to siphon money meant for development projects. Now, joining us tonight is the producer and main character of the Vampire Diaries, Mr. Morara Kebaso Snr. Now, Morara has recently been working on exposing a 40 billion shilling scandal at the Kenya Pipeline Company. He's also been breaking down the controversial Adani Airport deal that has lately been on the news headlines. And for the first time ever, Morara will be addressing Kenyans in the US and Kenyans in the diaspora. Bwana Morara Kebaso, karibu sana ndani ya One Mic Show. Can you hear us?
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me too.
Yes, loud and clear. Asante sana, Bwana Morara. Now, first of all, before we get started, if you don't mind, just tell us what time it is where you are and your location. I know your location sometimes tends to be classified, but just tell us so that people understand how deep you are in the work that you're doing. Morara.
Right, so it is 3:17 a.m. in the morning. It is 17 minutes past 3 in the morning. What I can tell is I'm in Kenya. I'm out of the country, but I can't tell you where.
Okay. All right. So that is totally understandable, especially in the line of work that you're doing. We totally understand this. However, we know that very recently, you had traveled to where there was a tragedy where we lost a number of primary school students. I think it was up to 20. I don't know whether it was 17 the first time. It might have been 20. Please tell us a little bit about that tragedy. And I know you tried your best to stay away in as much as you're being told to go and talk. Tell us a bit about this tragedy for those people out here in the diaspora, maybe who are not familiar, and maybe just some of the things, the corruption that leads sometimes to situations like this. Morara, twende kazi.
So yes, I did attend a prayer service for the Endarasha kids. Endarasha Hillside School was a boarding school for boys, primary school. And unfortunately, there was a fire that burned down a dormitory. And officially, 21 children died, 21 boys, which is very unfortunate and extremely painful. I went there to condole with the families, and I attended the prayer service, but I did not speak at the prayer service quite intentionally because I also didn't want to make it a political event, considering that people were in pain. But there are certain observations that I made that I may want to share with your listeners and viewers.
Yes, please go ahead.
And, the first observation I made when I went to Endarasha. Endarasha is in Nyeri County. It is in Kieni constituency. So when I went to Endarasha, I realized that the road is very bad. To add salt to injury, that road was launched by none other than William Samoei Ruto in 2018. So we expected that if we launched the road, then there should be a road. But there is no road, especially from Endarasha through a place called Charity up to a place called Embaringo. So that whole area, the road is extremely bad. And the fire engine was supposed to come from the nearest town, which is called Kiawara. And to get there, it would have taken no less than probably an hour for the fire engine to get to the school. So, when it is a fire, if you have a whole hour before the fire engine can get to the school, of course, you're not going to save anything. So that road contributed towards making the situation of that fire in that school even worse. And I realized that the dormitory was also not built very well in terms of standards of construction. By all engineering standards, it was not a standard building which should house children. But as you know, in Kenya, the Ministry of Education does not inspect the sanctity and safety of buildings that host children. And therefore, we can also say that there was an oversight on their part because they say that there is a counterclaim that the fire may have been caused by an arsonist, while there is an official claim that the fire could have been an electric fault. Be that as it may, I believe that the building, number one, should have had several exits. Number two, should have had fire extinguishers. The children should have had fire training, and we would have saved lives. But unfortunately, we lost 21 children. As it stands today, there was a dispute regarding whether the 70 children that were unaccounted for are actually accounted for. I saw a report by the Directorate of Criminal Investigation together with the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government saying that all the children had been accounted for. So, although the math did not add up, because he said that 143 children were accounted for and 21 had unfortunately lost their lives. And essentially, that adds up to 164 children that should be accounted for. So, there's still two families that I know of that are still looking for their children. There's a family of Mzee John Mwangi, who is a father of two. He has one child accounted for and one is still unaccounted for. And there's a grandmother called Joyce Wango, who is looking for her 12-year-old grandson. So these are the two that I know of that are still looking for their children and have not been told to take DNA samples, maybe to check among the 21. So it's a very unfortunate incident. Now, to add on top of that, before we conclude that point, is that while I was at the prayer service, a member of parliament shamelessly showed up late and in a helicopter.
Oh.
Landed in a helicopter shamelessly and very late. So I wonder, why would you be late to an event that is so emotional, so painful to the people that you're going to condole with? Then to make it worse, you land with a helicopter when actually the road is bad. When are you going to know about this road and how bad it is? So there's a lack of conscience on the part of our leaders. They are completely disjointed with the public and out of touch with reality. As you saw yesterday, 48 members of parliament, senators, and leaders from the Mount Kenya region met to tell us that their new kingpin is now Honorable Kindiki and not Honorable Gachagua.
Wow.
And my question would be, who cares? We don't care. We don't care if the Mount Kenya kingpin is a donkey or a horse. All we want is services to the people, leaders that are accountable, leaders that are sensitive to the public. And these leaders, they actually don't care. They only think about their stomachs, then they think about the public later. So those are the kind of characters that we have in Parliament. I'm happy with the kind of reception that I received in Nyeri. I held a rally at Kiawara Shopping Center, or you can call it a town because it's growing very fast. I had a rally there, and of course, the governor of Nyeri tried to send a fire truck to come and disrupt my rally.
Yes.
So I wondered where was the fire truck when the children were dying, that it is now available to come and disrupt a rally. But the people of Kiawara stood with me and we sent away the truck and I managed to have my conversation with them. The next day, I did a few day launch tours in Nyeri before I held a final rally in Karatina, then traveled back to the city. So that was my trip to Nyeri.
Okay, amazing work you're doing there, Morara Kebaso, and very sad, like a number of things you mentioned. Politicians showing up at a very sad place with a chopper, arriving late, not even being empathetic or being sensitive to what's happening. A fire truck being sent when you're on your delaunching tour. This fire truck was not available when these children were dying, but it was available to come and try to disrupt the civic education campaign that you were trying to conduct while you were in Nyeri. So asante sana. I can see I have a number of panelists here in the studio, but before I introduce the panelists in the studio, so many comments already coming in. Jacob Korir confirms he's in Bel Air, Maryland, and Tindi Mwalimu says, thank you for waking up so early to be here. We appreciate you. Tabitha Njeri says, wow, thank you for taking the time to be here at this hour, Morara. And then Gidraf Nganga, all the way from Pennsylvania, says, Gidi Chonjo, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Then we have Indefatigable Wanjeri, all the way from Boston, Massachusetts. She says, big up Morara Kebaso Snr for his series and opening our eyes. It's one thing to see the Auditor General's report, but it's other to see the non-starter project. Super proud of him and always praying his family and family safety. And then I have Zala Mbogoli. Anasema, welcome Morara. Thanks for waking up from your sleep to talk to us. Zala, North Carolina. I didn't know there was a city called Zala. It's Zala, your name. It's not the name of the city. And then, So the other thing real quick, that I want to remind everyone who is tuned in, most of you have already seen Morara Kebaso's work out there. And we want to remind those that choose to support Morara, his M-Pesa number is available on his social media platforms, all of them out there. And I'm going to say the number. The number, for those who are in the diaspora, you have, of course, to do the +254 708, and then it's 985 611. That's +254 708 985 611. For those who want to support him, start doing it right now as we are speaking. Get onto your favorite money sending app, be it Nala, be it Sendwave, be it TapTap, be it if you have a Safaricom number, or kama we ni old school bado natumia Western Union na MoneyGram. By the way, Western Union and MoneyGram, they can send money directly to Safaricom. I don't know whether I should be asking them for money because I'm advertising them now, but this money is going for a very good cause. Feel free to send something via any money, and feel free to comment. Place a comment down in the comment section. Sema nimemtumia Morara $10, nimemtumia Morara $50, nimemtumia Morara $100. Say it in there, because guess who's sending money to Morara? Mama Mboga, watu wa boda boda, people who are struggling, like they're sending him 10 bob, 50 bob, 100 bob. So please, tafadhalini. And I also want to welcome our listeners who are on YouTube. Now YouTube, tafadhalini pia nyinyi, make sure you send something to Morara. Feel free to drop a comment and tell us. I can see James Muchichu is there. He says, tuned in from Kansas, USA. Karibu sana, James. I can see Stephen Okoth, and I can also see Dorcas Monanti, anasema Morara Kebaso here and listening from Colorado. So people from everywhere. Then I have Formula Uno saying Ndindi Nyoro came late and landed in a helicopter in Endarasha. Say their names. And then hapa hakuna watu wacheki, watu wamekasirika pia huku diaspora. And then we can see the Tony Chira show is tuned in. We got you, Morara. You keep giving the message. They can't shoot the messenger nor the message. Tony Chira, lakini bro haitaki tutume na Lemfi. Iyo Lemfi, I don't know whether it works, but there are so many other apps that work. The number again is +254 708 985 611. Morara Kebaso. Tuma kitu kidogo, post hapo, weka hapo kwa post and let us know. Now, I'm going to come to the panel in the studio. First, I want to welcome Val Githaya, our guest host. Karibu sana Val. Val has been here before. What are your thoughts so far, or what's your expectation of tonight's show? Karibu sana Val.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Val Githaya, student and a political activist here in the DMV. Actually, I'm so happy today to be here. I feel like the last time I engaged Morara was over at least 10 years ago. Tulikuwa tuna protest. It was something to do with KU. So it's good to see him here, seeing that he's still consistent and doing the good work. Okay, what I'm expecting today is, sometimes you really get caught up here in the diaspora with work and being comfortable. And sometimes it can be so hard to relate with what's going on. And we can't be there in person, but here in the diaspora, there are a few things we can do. Like Alia Mesema, we can, support financially, and we can be really good with that here in the diaspora. Another thing is just talk to your family and try to educate them. And also, my condolences to the families of the lost ones in Endarasha. It's so sad. Kwanza nikikumbuka mimi wa uko Nyeri. Nasikia tu, my heart is just, it feels bad knowing that we have leaders who don't care and leaders who just want to be kingpins. Ndindi Nyororo. Ndindi
Nyororo. Nyororo ni sawa. Say it. Nyororo ni sawa.
Ndindi Nyororo.
Yes. Wow. Nyororo ni sawa. Wow. It's okay.
Okay, Ndindi Nyoro. Yes. My goodness.
Nyororo ni sawa pia.
Ni sawa pia. Like, these people, they don't learn, and they've lost that part of humanity. And it's very clear that wamekuwa sucked into that. And diaspora, we've brought Morara Kebaso here. This is our chance to join in the fight. We can do it in person, but there's so many ways we can do it.
Okay, asante sana. And also another thing about Val, she's the one who facilitated this and made this interview possible. So Val, asante sana. We don't take that for granted.
Yani ndiye alikuwa nakifungua.
Yes, sasa Omosh, karibu sana. Give us 1 minute and tell us what you expect out of the episode tonight.
I think that there's going to be something that will be revealed over here that will be very shocking, and we'll be very appalled, and we will all go to arms and we're just waiting to hear
and donate.
Yeah, that one too.
Yes.
That one too. But karibu kwa show. Thank you for making time to come through to us and also to open our eyes. Tumekuwa tukikuona online na sasa tunakuona live. Karibu.
Okay, asante sana. Asante sana Omosh. So we are gonna go to Mika all the way from the village that he's in somewhere in Virginia. So Mika, please tell us 1 minute, what do you expect out of the show tonight?
Thank you very much, Ali. Morara, thank you for getting time to come to us, and also want to thank your regular wapenzi wa changiaji. What I expect to do is just a conversation about the state of things in Kenya, what Morara has done. And also, this is, it gets quite refreshing when you see that it's the young people who are taking these initiatives and they're the ones who are fighting for the future of the country. So my expectations today is a little more education on what's happening in Kenya, how things are happening, things that people can do to help in the spread and of awareness, and also the lessons that people can take from today so they can be able to protect the sovereignty of the country. As Morara said, we have leaders who have gone back to politicking as they used to, because in Kenya, politicians believe politicking is why they were elected, not service delivery to the people.
Okay. Asante sana, Mika Och. A lot of expectations. Now, before I come to Uno Mike, there's someone here by the name Chef Wakombo on Facebook. Amesema nimetuma $25. Ametuma $25. So hiyo hapo, we are getting started. So makofi sana kwa Chef Wakombo. Makofi. So everyone, remember again, the number is +254 708 985 611. I have posted it on YouTube. It's pinned on the comment section pale Facebook. So please, use any app that you prefer. Nala, Sendwave, Western Union, kama we bado ni mtu wa kutumia Hawala, Dahabshil, whatever app you have, this money is all going, and we all know exactly where it's going to. So asanteni sana. So Uno Mike, 1 minute, just tell us, what do you expect tonight?
For me, it's civic education. I think it is important to really get to understand, because what's happening right now is we are being taught. Our eyes are being opened. For a long time, we have been asleep, and we have always been distracted. I was listening to Senator Onyonka today, and he was talking about things that, even to me, I was like, wow, wait a minute. He brought up things like Tulu oil, when we found oil in Turkana. There was a conversation about gemstones.
Yeah.
We're producing a lot, by the way.
Even uranium.
And uranium, and we don't even know.
Yeah.
People don't know.
He talked about Magadi Soda on the
Magadi Soda. Yes.
Where? Mjukua Masai.
So, there's a lot that we do not know. We are always distracted by other things.
Yes.
And huku kwengine tunaporwa. But
yeah, and you see the government bloggers are already active. They're already releasing these stories that I don't know.
Course.
I don't know who's divorcing with who to get people distracted.
Yeah, we know them. Tumeonea kutoka hata si 18, hiyo 18 nyingine on the other side.
But watu wamekasirika na tuko chonjo. So let me go back to the comment section. I can see it sitting up before we go right back to Morara. Tabitha Njeri, our loyal listener, anasema, when I think about what Morara is doing for all of us as a collective, I can't help but feel immense gratitude for his gratitude and service to us people. This takes heart, passion, and courage. I have sent 200. Let me not say 200, not 2, not 20, but $200. So makofi kwa Tabitha. Yeah.
Make sure it's not Zimbabwean dollars.
No, it's US dollars.
Okay, sawa.
It's US
It could
dollars.
be, it could be Zim dollars.
So now Tabitha has a message here. She sent $200 right now. Anasema nani ataniskuma na 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 ama atatufikisha hata 500. So yeah, so the money is already coming in because meli imengoa nanga ya Morara, and I mean the train is moving and it's not gonna be stopped. So asanteni sana. I can also see there's quite a number of people out here on on YouTube. I can see let me see. Dorcas anasema Morara Kebaso here and listening from Colorado. I think we already read that. Robert Bet anasema karibu Morara. And then I can see Dennis Gates anasema karibu Morara from LA, California. Then we have James Muchichu. Can you drop the number? I already dropped the number there. And then I can see Chief Luis Achungo is already tuned in. And then Tony Chirans anasema we are here, we got you Morara.
Repeat the number again, by the way, for the people on YouTube.
So the number is +254 708
708
985
985
611.
611.
Okay.
Check out your YouTube.
All right. So keep the money coming, and we're gonna, we're gonna keep talking. I don't know whether tutafika 500, whether tutafika 1,000, 2,000. I don't know. But now let's go back to Morara. And Morara, tell us, why should the diaspora, especially those of us who are out here living in the US, why should we care about this budgeted corruption that you're talking about? Because people here, they have their good jobs, they have their good cars, why should people in the diaspora care about this? Is there any way that it affects us in ways that we don't know? Morara.
Well, let me first make it clear that wherever you are in the world, home is home. In the end, your journey will still end back home. And on top of that, you may be in the diaspora, but I'm sure you have so many dependents back at home. People love you, people care about you. And these people are going through a lot of pain because of incompetence and because of corruption and because of theft and plunder by politicians who lack conscience of running our nation. Let me just paint the picture clearly to the people in the diaspora to understand it, and I'm going to say it in a very measured manner. I want the people in the diaspora to know that according to Morara, I can imagine that, or rather, my estimate is that about 60% of our annual budget is stolen. I say this very seriously because this government does not do anything, and I mean anything with capital letters, anything, unless they are looting and stealing public funds. In fact, even after we do demonstrations to reject bad governance and corruption, we still give them an opportunity to loot public funds. They allocate money towards repairing damaged infrastructure. They say when we did protest, there is some infrastructure that was damaged, and then they are able kutenga sasa tena for money to repair that infrastructure. So for them, it's not an opportunity for introspection. It's not an opportunity to think about the situation, but an opportunity to steal and plunder. So much money is stolen in Kenya that if you're told it looks astronomical, it does not look real. It looks like gaslighting. But I can tell you, fellow Kenyans, let me just give you an example of one county. Now, you should know that most of the money in Kenya is not stolen on the expenditure side. What I've been doing with the Vampire Diaries is I've been auditing government expenditure, where government set aside money, allocated it, launched a project, it never started, but money was spent, or it started and stalled, but money was spent, or it was completed with very poor workmanship and great plunder and theft of public resources. That's what I've been focusing on. But you need to know that that is the tip of the iceberg. That is the smaller part of the corruption. The real corruption is on revenue. Let's begin with counties. A good example is the county of Busia. The county of Busia, when it was a municipal council with councillors, it used to collect up to 700 million per year. KRA used to collect taxes of up to 800 million per year. When devolution came and Busia became a county, now it's collecting 130 million a year or thereabout. Can you make me understand how this revenue came down almost 6-7 times, yet the Busia has developed? There's been an increase in investment due to devolution. The tax rates have gone high. How come they are collecting 10 times less what they used to collect as a county council? And this answer is simple. Recently, the Auditor General revealed that county governments are operating more than 300 accounts.
Oof.
More than 300 accounts, county government. So what they do is that they have a county revenue system and a revenue collection system which goes into their private accounts. So they collect revenue from licenses, they collect revenue from toll fees, they collect revenue from other sources, and it does not go to the consolidated fund. It does not go to the public account. It goes to their personal account. That is how they are able to afford all these things like helicopters and things that are only driven abroad by celebrities. That is how they are able to buy MCAs all the time for them to stay loyal to the governor. So if you come to the national government, money is also stolen on the revenue side more than on the expenditure side. Revenue, by that I mean, if you look at KRA, money is stolen through tax evasion. You find that there are companies in Kenya that do not pay tax or do not pay their fair share of tax because of corruption. Then if you come down to collectibles or cash receivables by government, especially something called e-citizen, I want to challenge the people in the diaspora to go and read the latest Auditor General's report. The government of Kenya is unable to account for 15 billion Kenya shillings that were received on e-citizen. They can neither confirm nor deny whether they have the money. 15 billion,
Ooh.
all right? Money that is collected in Kenya, a lot of it is stolen through revenue. Now, there is also the stealing of loans, all right? There is the theft of debt, where we have fake odious debt that never landed in the consolidated fund, never landed in the accounts of the Republic of Kenya, was never for the benefit of the people of Kenya, but that debt, the people of Kenya are already paying for it with their taxes. As you've been told, currently 8 shillings out of 10 shillings is going towards repayment of debt, meaning we are in a debt distress. But this debt distress is fake and it's manufactured. I'll give you one example of how debt was stolen. You have heard of Eurobond. Now in Eurobond, what happened when these two presidents came to power, that is Uhuru and Ruto, it was the most saddest day of the life of a Kenyan, because those two people, we must be the greediest human beings alive. When they came into power, the first thing they did is that they changed the Public Finance Management Act through Parliament, and the Public Finance Management Act now allowed them to open foreign accounts abroad and receive money in them without taking it through the consolidated fund. Remember, the constitution under public finance management requires that all monies belonging to government, whether it's debt, whether it's domestically or internationally borrowed, whether it's cash receivables, whether it is tax, all of it must go to the consolidated fund. Then from the consolidated fund, it is allocated to different projects. That is how the controller of budget is able to control the use of funds and even do an annual budget implementation report. But now, to evade the safeguards that were put there by the Constitution, that is the Auditor General together with the Controller of Budget, they created something in the Public Finance Management Act which allowed them to open accounts abroad. Now we have the government of Kenya having over 50 accounts, over 100 accounts abroad that do not go to the consolidated fund. So in this particular case of Eurobond, the government borrowed $2 billion in the US from a bank called JP Morgan Chase, biggest bank in America. They borrowed $2 billion. Now, $2 billion with the current exchange rate, we are talking about 270 billion Kenya shillings. That's a colossal amount.
Oh, that's a big
When they
amount.
borrowed that money, they accounted for $1 billion. They say 650 million was to repay a debt by President Mwai Kibaki, and $350 million US came to the Kenyan account. They opened this account in the name of Kenya Wealth Sovereign Fund. Now remember, we don't have a Kenya Wealth Sovereign Fund in Kenya. It's true that some countries have already established a sovereign wealth fund where they put 10% of their taxes and their mineral and the revenue that they earn from minerals. But Kenya, we don't have it. But here we have a signature of a Cabinet Secretary of Treasury opening an account at JP Morgan Chase and receiving money in that account. They then opened another account in Qatar, also in the name of Kenya Wealth Sovereign Fund. They transferred $1 billion from JP Morgan Chase to Qatar. When it got to Qatar, it was withdrawn and it disappeared. Wow. That is theft of 130 billion Kenya shillings in one sweep, in one transaction. All right? Just recently, not so long ago, they operate the Kenyan treasury as a crime scene. They operate it like an M-Pesa. They withdrew 12.5 billion without approval of parliament, without any process, without any budget. They just did a quick supplementary budget and withdrew 12.5 billion purportedly to buy shares for the Africa Trade and Development Bank, the Africa Export-Import Bank, and Jamhuri Holdings, which is a holder of shares in Telkom. Now, Africa Trade Development Bank is unable to respond to calls and is unavailable and is non-committal on whether they receive the money. The same with Africa Exim Bank. They are evasive. They don't even want to meet the Auditor General. And of course, we never bought the shares at Telkom, meaning that is 12.5 billion stolen in one sweep. So the kind of theft that is in Kenya is colossal. It is amazing. It's something that if I tell you, it sounds like it is straight out of a movie. It makes La Casa de Papel sound like child play, like comic show. The kind of theft that is in Kenya is bigger than bank robbery. It's like walking into the Reserve Bank of America or Fort Knox and carrying away all the gold.
Wow. Morara, when I started following you, like some of the things that you were saying to me at that point appeared so explosive, and I was like, apana, I have to go and check this. And literally everything I checked was accurate. So this theft is hidden in plain sight.
Yes.
Meaning that you have documents on the website of the Auditor General. There's a trail of all these theft, and then of course we're also dealing with a Dani Airport issue right now, which needs a whole other crime scene. Which is a whole other crime scene on its own. But then the most compelling thing that you said, Morara, is the fact that now of all the revenues we collect, out of every 100 bob we collect, 80 is going towards paying debt, some of which is odious. Now, just coming back to the diaspora, when you're left only with 20 shillings to spend on everything, that means certain services that required government funds, like education, healthcare, provision of clean water, it scales back. Whether it's the county government or whether it's the national government, it scales back. And who finances that portion where the government is scaling back? People in the diaspora. I can tell you, Morara, I have expertise in finance, and I've been talking to a lot of people in the diaspora, and I'll tell you, most people in the diaspora, the money that we send back home at the very lower end is about 10% of people's income, and on the higher end, I know people who are sending up to 30% or 50% of their incomes to pay hospital bills in Kenya, to pay for education, like primary, secondary school, university education, and other services that the government is supposed to be offering. So already, our income, we already cut. We already are paying a black tax of around 30% before the U.S. federal government takes its cut.
And it's mostly education and hospital.
Yes, those are the big ones.
Those are the big ones. And not to forget also, when Morara is talking about budgeted corruption, we have like now, for example, offices. I don't know whether I'm going to call them offices or departments or whatever, like the office of the First Lady or the Prime Cabinet Secretary, whatever, getting funding to the tune of about 1 billion.
Yes.
1 billion Kenya shillings. But yet, teachers over here, capitation has not been paid. But there's an insistence on those two offices being funded.
Yeah, so let me read a couple of comments here before I come into the rest of the panel. I can see, yes, money has been coming in. And Tabitha, now I want you to start keeping a tally from everyone. From, I think, like the first person to contribute was I think Chef let me see, I'm missing something here.
Your 50 bob.
Kuna
Alex $50 here.
Alex Muchugia.
Yeah, so kuna Chef Wakombo was the first one to contribute. So Tabitha, and then Tabitha contributed 200. So Tabitha, keep a tally of everyone who's contributing. And then I can see Stephen JJ syndicized with $25. I can see Alex Muchugia ameskuma $50. And this is US dollars. This is not Zimbabwean dollars. Then I can see Gidraf Ganga from Pennsylvania. Nasema, I've sent $50 to MK. Guys, this young man is a true warrior. Let's give him our total support. Morara, David Kebaso, wewe ni wetu. And then Slay says, this is so sad and infuriating. Chef Wakombo bado anaongeza, amesema nimesukumia Njeri another $10. And then Slay anasema nimesukumia Tabitha Njeri $10 pia. Then I can see Nonini Mgenge True is tuned in. Nonini, unajua sasa pia amekuwa diaspora, ni moja wetu.
Na ile wimbo yake amedrop.
Na hiyo nyimbo yake amedrop, which was very good music. Anasema inject kabisa Morara. Tuko pamoja sana. And then I think Mary Kyoko is asking about how to contribute. The number is +254 708 985 611. That's M-Pesa, goes directly to Morara Kebaso, and it's actually it's posted on YouTube and also pinned on the Facebook comments. I can see Washeke Nirangu here saying we should be involved in supporting this fight for accountability and good governance because the rampant corruption hurts our pocketbooks. We are forced to pay school fees and hospital bills for our loved ones at home because of the collapse of public services. A huge chunk of our income is spent on this, and this has hindered many from achieving financial stability in the diaspora, further education. So Morara, I want you to pay attention to this, because sometimes what diaspora don't understand, like what this black tax does also to us over here. And then I have Joy KRG, and Asema, is there a way we can revisit these issues? Most people seem so interested in going after IMF, World Bank, when the vampires are right here. So we're going to be talking about the IMF and World Bank a little bit later. So good point, Joy. And then Carol is very surprised and Asema, whoa. And then Slay Odwor, my goodness. Then we have Motomoto Kitchen all the way from Delaware. That's Linda Stewart and Asema, Mayo. Then we have Lawrence Kihanya from Delaware. And Asema, now that Morara has so many receipts, and this is taxpayers' money that has been stolen in the name of projects, how can it be recovered? Can a citizen sue crooks like Moses Kuria? So Morara, weka hiyo question pembeni, utajibu baadaye. And then Nonini anasema budgeted corruption on steroids. And then I can see Sleodwara anasema it's wash kabisa. Preston Wambua, karibu sana, anasema so infuriating, makes me sick in the stomach, just ridiculous. Washeke says we can start by suing and declining to pay the odious debts as citizens, and this could make IMF, World Bank, etc. think twice about lending to Kenya. Nonini anasema, unfortunately, IMF likes Kenya being in that situation. They are Shylocks. Robert Bet anasema nimeongeza $50. So kwa hiyo tally, Washeke or Tabitha, please take this tally of everybody who's contributing. Robert Bet ameongeza $50. So now we are moving. And then, let me see, Jidraf anasema, the vampires are in bed with these two neocolonialist institutions. We need to fight both. And then Simon anasema nimesindikisha na $25. So the money keeps coming. The money keeps coming. The number is +254. This goes to Morara Kebaso's M-Pesa. Haikuji kwangu, haikuji kwa one mic show. It goes straight to him. And the number is +254 708 Joel KRG anasema, why not start by asking for Ruto to give back the money? When he was taking the loans, he had a full supercharged support of a big part of the country. Tano tena, kumera ni kumera. And then
Dhuraku.
Yeah, and then Nonini hapa anasema na seti $50 na alafu ambia Morara, I have also committed 100,000 Kenya shillings from the 4 millions.
Ile lawsuit.
Okay, ile lawsuit.
Yes.
Okay.
Umesikia hiyo Morara?
By the way, Nonini hapo pia sisi utatuangalia baadaye hapo nyuma ya tent. Usisahau pia na sisi. And then Zala Mbogoli anasema sent $25. Thank you so much Zala Mbogoli. And then Samrak. Samrak karibu sana. Samrak hapo ameangusha $50. Tutaingia YouTube baadaye kidogo. But let's come back to the studio, because what Morara has said was just, I mean, it was just super intense.
And it's a tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, it's a tip of the iceberg. Yeah, this is just a tip. And I mean, those numbers, like, my mind can't even process them anymore.
Yeah.
Val.
What Morara said reminded me, do you guys remember when we had the Anjeri scandal? The Anjeri, there was a whole oil scandal.
Yeah.
There was money that went missing from the
17
treasury
billion, something like that.
No one knew how does money go missing.
The oil tanker.
No.
Exactly. That made me just remember that. And just, it's so sad knowing, like, it's people, Kenyans can't even get the bare minimum, like in hospitals, getting medicine, getting maternal care, getting all these things just because money is being embezzled. That strategy of kiting, where they're moving money from Kenya to Swiss, from Swiss to Qatar, just to find a way to distribute the money so that it's not allocated.
I'm learning that term, but
I think inaitwa kiting kama kuna,
yes, it's kiting.
And it's just, it's sad. And having the anti-corruption we need to anti-corruption
Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission,
EACC.
Yeah.
But someone asked something to do with paying the debt. Actually, Mozambique, there's something they did.
Yes, the odious debt.
The odious debt, where
Yes.
the citizens of Mozambique refused to pay the odious
They
debt.
took it to court and they won.
So that is something we as Kenyans can do.
So the owner of the debt, anakauka. Because this is debt that we did not get, so we cannot pay it. So imagine what's happening in Kenya is, imagine one day you get a statement from American Express, $20,000. A watch was bought for $20,000, and they're telling you this debt is in your name. You never even had an American Express credit card in the first place. So you can go to arbitration, and once arbitration determines that it wasn't you spend the money, American Express wanakauka na wanakula hiyo pesa. I know Mika had something to say real quick before we go to the YouTube comments and we come back to Morara. Mika.
Actually, I think me and Val have gone on the same train of thoughts about the 70 million, because it was quite funny how a lady just from nowhere decided to order oil, and she was going to sell that oil to the country for 70 billion. Then the oil was not hers. Then they didn't know who the oil belonged to, but there was a tanker with oil there. Then there was 70 billion which was withdrawn, which never went back, which disappeared somewhere. Then the next thing we saw somebody wearing $1 million watches. So, and then going back to that point of where we were saying that us who are from diaspora, in terms of black tax, how much it affects you, how much most people send a high percentage of their income. Now, the sad thing about it, Ali, is that when you send 20 to 30% of your income, and that 20 to 30%, you're paying for a service. And that service which you're paying, you don't get nearly a half of what you deserve for that service, while somebody else gets enriched with it. When we talk about education, this education mostly is high school education. It's college education that people are paying for their relatives back home. When you're paying this money, there's still embezzlement from this learning institution that's happening, and this embezzlement goes back to the pockets of these politicians. We have this education, the university funding model that is becoming an issue right now in the country, because there's money that's supposed to come there. There's got fees that they were told to pay. These fees are you guys who are going to send that money. And then that money is still not going to help, because we are finding that the government is not releasing their shares of that money. So whatever you're sending is what's trying to cover, and this institution need to run. So they will push for the students to pay their what they owe, while the government refuses this money and somebody is benefiting. So it's not only that you're covering that expense that the 20% is not failing to cover. It's also that they're eating in from your pocket. The same thing with the healthcare. They're pushing for a health system which says that people have to pay for a certain health system. The chief in itself is not even understood that it's supposed to cover people. So when your relatives go to hospital and they're not covered with that insurance, you're not going to wait. You're going to send your money, and guess what? The money that you are taking back home, there's still a hospital that is understaffed, and there are doctors who are being paid properly because the politician is getting paid. There's no enough medication that is there because the politician who ate money for the medication. So it's not just that you are covering their extra expenses, is that you're also contributing to their pockets. So you should feel the pain of this corruption more than anybody else, because you're being hurt twice.
Okay, sawa. Asante sana, Mika. Now we're shortly going to go back to Morara. Now, Morara, I'm going to read a few YouTube comments here. And as we're coming back to you, I want to think about, like how the diaspora can come in, especially there are some projects, someone mentioned the IMF and the World Bank before, because of this situation we're in where every 100 shillings, 80 shillings is going towards paying debt. We're in a situation where we now have to receive debt money to do some basic government services, and even certain projects which the government is supposed to be funding. Now you're finding foreign donors are the ones who are funding schools, water, and things that the government should be doing. So I want you to think about, like these donor-funded projects, because I heard there's also corruption in them, corruption that may not necessarily be captured in the Auditor General's report. Like there's ways in which this money is also being shared out. Maybe you can talk about that a bit, but before that, a couple of people here who have been commenting on YouTube. I can see Tabs K saying, thank you, Morara, for finding time to call in. Thank you too for the civic education. Keep up with the excellent job. Praying for God to help you and your family. We have Luis Achungo, Chief Louis. We will hack into those government bloggers' gadgets and teach them something. That is what I do for a career. So someone already volunteering himself here. This is Chief Louis. This is Chief Louis' opinions. This is not the One Mic Show. This is Chief Louis volunteering himself. But Louis hapa sema, Morara, I send you $50 every week. Leo na skumia Tabitha. So someone please keep the tally pale Facebook. Chief Louis pia ametuma $50. I can see David Mathenge says karibu Gen Z revolutionary. And then George Mwangi anasema niko ndani, karibu. We can see Winnie Mwangi pia anasema karibu. Chief Louis hapa anasema thank you for mentioning Busia. I was asked to help with an app for revenue collection by the senator, but I refused because my mother said stay away from government. And then Upper Charles Mwangi anasema thanks Morara, tuned in from Houston, Texas. And then Chief Lui anasema Busia County is the only county with 2 border crossings, Malaba and Busia. Sir, patrol at Seaport, ATF and border post control, immigration and a central bank branch, yet we are county 45 poor. And then I can see TCT V1 USA from Seattle anasema Morara is a different revolutionary. No bloodshed or violent disruptions. If sending something, maximize what he receives. It is Kenya shillings 128.10 to $1 on Lemfi. So naona pia Lemfi wamejitokeza, wanasema pia wao wanatuma pesa Kenya. So for those who use that app,
wamelipa.
Well, you know, hiyo hapo we will deal with them later on. We'll deal with them later on. And then I can see Joshua Mukolwe says, how do we tolerate all this? Pink Flamingo anasema Morara, thank you, but please be very careful. We pray for you. And then Upper Charles Moma anasema, thanks Brother Morara for what you're doing. You've made a big impact in exposing these tumbocrats. You are a warrior, brother. Tuned in from North Carolina. We're gonna come back to these comments because these comments are thick and fast. So gonna come back to
add to that. There's Stephen Okoth. Amezindikisha na $50.
Stephen Okoth. Yeah.
Yes.
So Tabitha Washeke, please keep this tally. Yeah, but you know, coordinate between the two of you. We want to have a tally, a list, you know, like of names and how many people are contributing, so that tujue ni pesa ngapi tumempa Morara, so that we know if we need to do this next time in case he has a bigger project.
Wasikue na madhafu chafu.
Okay, sawa. No, inaenda straight kwa Morara, hata kama madhafu ni chafu. He's an auditor. Yeah, he's an auditor.
Unajua uzuri hii APT Atlanta.
Yeah, hii APT Atlanta. Kama ile during Ruto's visit.
Kama Ruto's visit.
Yeah, APT Atlanta.
APT Atlanta.
Inaenda straight.
Yes, but anyway, let's go back to Morara, back to the question that I was asking you. Now out here in the US, how can we be of help? I mean, of course, there's the few dollars that we can send out to you, but then we're here right next in the belly of the beast. The World Bank is I think 25 minutes from where we are located here. IMF about 20 minutes from here. All these entities, all these American entities that are funding projects in Kenya, we are very close to them. So talk to us, Morara. How can we be of help?
So before I talk to you about the World Bank and the IMF, I'd like to tell you that as people in the diaspora, first, I relate with your struggles. I have friends and relatives who live abroad in the US, in New Jersey, in Minneapolis, in Texas, and I know what they go through. We talk all the time. And I know how much dependence there is from Kenya to people in the diaspora to keep sending remittances. And most of it is not, you know, we expect remittances for development. But sometimes the people in the diaspora now have to send money home for, you know, just recurrent expenditure, pesa ya kukula tu chakula or medicine or school fees. And you know that is very painful. It is painful that this government and politicians in general who hold our institutions of power have created such a corrupt system where there are no opportunities for the youth, no opportunities for the rest of the population, disenfranchised them and kept them poor. But now the diaspora has to step in and keep those people alive. And the poverty in Kenya, I want to assure the people in the diaspora, it is manufactured poverty. If you look at the amount of money that is stolen every day and the kind of minerals that we have that are being mined and taken abroad without the benefit to the Kenyan people, Kenya could be one of the richest countries in Africa. It actually has the most hardworking population in Africa, but it is poor. It is poor because one person can steal money that would have benefited 13 million or 20 million or 40 million people. The kind of money that is stolen in Kenya, I will repeat again, is very, very shocking. Just the other day, the president said he has set aside 18.7 billion Kenya shillings, and that money is supposed to be spent on hiring junior secondary school teachers, who, by the way, are 56,000 of them, that he wants to hire them on a permanent and pensionable basis. As we speak today, a JSS teacher is paid 17,000 Kenya shillings. Now, with the 17,000, we expect this teacher to pay his rent, to eat food, to travel to work, to dress up, if sick, to buy medicine, and still we have expectations that this teacher with the 17,000 and the kind of economy that we have in Kenya, that this teacher will still teach our children. That teacher is going to be the most demotivated teacher in the world. And we are entrusting this teacher with our children. At the same time, when the government promised this money, which of course it never delivered, as is the character of the president,
Ametenga.
he lies all the time.
If
So
it's
after
not-
saying that he set aside has no money, it means to say the government has no money. So what was he setting aside if the government has no money? At what point did he find it necessary to come on live television and give a statement and say there's money, I'm going to hire these people? Then they say now they want to print new currency with 17 billion. So these idiots have money to print new currency, but they don't have money to pay teachers to teach their children. So fast forward now to your question on IMF and World Bank. Now, I want to believe that the problems we have with IMF and World Bank is a cocktail of two issues. One, the general agenda of the World Bank and IMF. I don't believe they mean well for Kenya. But also there is the China factor, which creates a problem with the World Bank and the IMF. So let me explain it slowly so that you understand it. There is the balance of power in Kenya, that is East and the West. Now, initially, we were a country that were looking west. But with Kibaki and Uhuru and Ruto now, we looked east, because the Chinese government was making huge investments in Africa through the Belt and Road project, doing great infrastructural projects. But there is one interesting thing about the Chinese, and when I meet the Chinese ambassador, I would like to ask him this question. Why is it that in China, the Chinese hang corrupt people? They kill them, they shoot them at a public square. But in Kenya, they are the biggest propagators of corruption. The Chinese do not care about corruption in Kenya. In fact, if you borrow money from the China Exim Bank, you decide how you want it. If you want it through a SWIFT transfer, they do a SWIFT transfer. If you want it in cash, they are ready to load it on a cargo plane and land it on JKIA in cash. I'm serious. I'm not joking. They have loaded cash before and landed it with a cargo plane at JKIA. These people, they don't care how much you steal out of the money they give you as a loan. All they care about is how much the Chinese company is making. The biggest beneficiary being a company called CRNBC, China Road and Bridge Construction Limited. If you want to know the effect of Chinese corruption in Kenya, you just look at the biggest project they've ever done, which is the Standard Gauge Railway, which of course we paid double for, and which we never got benefit for the money that we borrowed. We lost over 700 billion on that project. And you know what? The money was stolen and taken to China, then it was taken to Hong Kong. A company was registered in Hong Kong by Kenyatta. Then Kenyatta came back with that proxy company and built the expressway. Now they are telling us that the solution to Kenyan infrastructure is public-private partnership. And they are giving expressway, Nairobi Expressway, as the child, or rather as the poster child of a successful PPP. Whereas the expressway is actually money laundering. It is money stolen from public funds, taken abroad, a company registered, a Chinese front brought back into Kenya, and our money that is stolen from us laundered back. Now, for the money that we pay on the expressway, for every 10 shilling, 6 shillings goes to the Kenyatta family through one of their companies. This is what I mean by state capture and corruption that has been deeply entrenched in our political system and in our governance. They've stolen everything. They are now looking for creative ways to steal even what is yet to be stolen. It worries me that the IMF and the World Bank are also now, collaborators with corrupt regimes. It tends to give the vibe that probably they are not interested in an independent Africa. They are not interested in a developed Africa. They actually want to create client states, as I've read in the book, The Economic Hitman. They actually want to create poor states and client states that cannot sustain themselves so that we become subservient to their interests. That is why the IMF would loan money. It is stolen and they still loan money. The World Bank would loan money, the money is stolen, and then they would loan again more money. What can possibly explain such kind of an attitude towards Kenyan development?
Wow.
I want to believe that there is complicit on their part, but I also want to understand them and say the Chinese factor has made America weaker in terms of trying to instill values of anti-corruption, because when the Americans become too strict about corruption in Kenya, the Kenyan government has an option. It has a side chick. Yeah, wakinyimwa, they go to the Chinese. So then it puts us in a situation where the Americans do not have real power to influence prudent use of resources or to prevent embezzlement of resources, because there's another kid on the block that has all the money in the world and that is ready to give it without question. So the Chinese looking east have also contributed towards the IMF and the World Bank and the Brentwood institutions being unable to be as strict as they used to be, or to hold government as accountable as they used to be, because now there are other options of sources of financing. So then the government does not opt for financing from IMF or World Bank if it's going to have too many conditions, or if it's going to be audited too much, because their interest is to steal this money. Where can the diaspora come in? Well, you see, in every institution, it's not everybody that is corrupt. There are actually good people in those institutions. There are good people at the World Bank. There are good people at IMF who mean well and who want a developed Africa, who want emancipation from poverty and end to disease and ignorance. So the best thing that the diaspora can do, number one, is to put pressure. And one of the ways to put pressure is to write emails, write letters, and even organize a day to occupy. We need to put our minds together and look at all the projects that IMF and World Bank have funded. Probably we can give ourselves a period of, say, 5 years, and say we want to audit all the projects that have been financed by the IMF and the World Bank in the last 5 years. And if we are not lazy, if we are able to read, most of that information is actually even available online. You can send me to the ground to go and confirm those projects, as you also confirm from online. Then we'll be able to get the correct figures. Then once we get the correct figures, we'll be able to identify which ones has money been pilfered or embezzled. That way we can have the content to write in our letters and in our emails and to occupy, or rather to protest against the IMF and World Bank. It will go a long way in terms of piling pressure on top of the leadership of the World Bank, so that if they have World Bank representatives or IMF representatives in Kenya that are busy doing corruption with William Ruto, we'll either have a replacement of those officials, or we'll have a call-in from the US, or we'll have great accountability on their part. So that is one of the things I think we can do with those Brentwood institutions. Somebody asked in the comments, what can we do? And mentioned the name of Moses Kuria and said, can citizens sue the government, or rather the politicians? Yes, indeed, I want to confirm to that person that it is true that citizens can sue. There's a provision in the constitution that allows for private prosecution. You don't have to wait for the DPP. You can actually privately prosecute someone. But to do this, you would need evidence. And that evidence is in government books. And finding that evidence is not easy, because if they know that your intention is to bring these people to account, then they are going to conceal as much information as possible. The Moses Kuria that you mentioned is the same one that was given a tender to build a stadium in Kiambu called Karatu Stadium. So shameless was he that he even took the tender with his own company. You know, sometimes you expect thieves with conscience, where a thief, you know, mwizi mzuri. Unajua kuna wezi hapa Nairobi wanakuibia simu, then at least they give you back your line and give you fare. They still, you know, 10,000 or 200 bob and say itakufikisha nyumbani.
Uingenganya.
But now we have a thief who he didn't even have the courtesy of hiding behind a shell company or behind a proxy. He actually balloted for the tender where he is a director. Like if you go to eCitizen and pull out the CR12 of that company, you find the name Moses Kiarie Kuria. It's belligerent because he knows nothing will happen. Yani nitafanya kwani mutadu.
Yeah.
So it's the kind of belligerence and impunity that we have, you know. Sahi tunaibiwa live. Actually, they say other countries have mafia, but in Kenya, the mafia has a country. We have a criminal enterprise that owns a country.
Wow.
Right? And I've had very high-level conversations with people that I may not mention on this show, but let me just say what we discussed with them. I spoke with someone who was in one room with William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta not so long ago, a private room, and they were having dinner together. And this is a very powerful person in Kenya, but I'll not mention him. I had a meeting with him and I asked him, you know, we have over 6 trillion missing from our national debt. Our national debt right now is 10.4 trillion. We have 6.7 trillion that is completely unaccounted for, never came to the Kenyan people, cannot be directed to any development project. It's just odious, it's gone. Where is this money? Because I don't see it in the economy. 6.5 trillion, that is about $48 billion. That's about $50 billion. If it was in Kenyan economy, I would be seeing it. Kenya would be looking like Dubai. It would be having things like Burj Khalifa. But I don't see it in Kenya. So I was asking him, where is the money? Are these people buying properties abroad? What are they buying? He told me, well, it's true that they buy properties abroad, but the truth is most of this money is in cash and it is in dollars. And it is stashed abroad. Some in Panama, some in Cyprus, some of the money in Virgin Islands, some of the money in Malta, and some of the money in London, and some of the money in Dubai. For Dubai and London, most is this purchase of assets. For the rest of the country is cash. This money is also kept in Hong Kong, in different accounts, in proxy accounts. Why are they keeping the money in cash? I asked him. And he told me the mission is simple. These people have a dream. They want to be like Vanderbilt. They want to be like JP Morgan. They want to be like the Rothschilds. So the mission is simple. Make Kenya as poor as possible, then take the money you've stashed abroad, buy everything and make Kenyans your slaves. Control all sectors of the industry, own the means of production, then make Kenya an empire where you just pass down power from your son to your son to your daughter to your son. And by they come to think of it, it looks like conspiracy theory, but it actually makes sense.
it looks like a nightmare, or like a dream, or some wishful thinking. It doesn't look realistic. It looks like, it's an imagination, but it's real. These people actually are on a deliberate mission to collapse the country. Because we have a president who has a PhD. So by all standards, he's not stupid. But he has a PhD in theft. So the question I asked when I was on Jeff K. Nenge Live is, once you become a president, why do you need to steal? Once you've become a president, that is the highest you can be. Why do you still need to steal? And now it's making sense. You steal because you want to create an empire where you own the means of production, you own a whole banking sector, or you own the whole railroads, or you own airports, or you own the ports, or you own all the land, or a substantial amount of the land.
Wow.
So that now the country cannot move without you. The country is now your personal property. You have so much influence. You are like the royal family in London. You have so much influence, nothing can move without you. Not even rats can eat anything unless you've given them the permission.
Oh,
so
my
that
goodness.
is the mission of these people, to own sectors of the economy. They want to do it the way it happened in the USSR in the fall of the Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union fell and we had the new Russia, we had the Russian oligarchs like Roman Ibrahimovic and this guy called Vladimir Ibrahimovic Putin, who bought everything because they are the ones who had the money.
Wow.
Right? They bought, you come and buy Kenya pipeline at 200,000 Kenya shillings. Or you come and buy Kenya Ports Authority at 100,000 shillings. Or you come and buy, the airport, Kenya JKIA, you buy it at 10 million Kenya shillings. So I believe that is the mission. And if we don't stop it, I want to assure you, the people of the diaspora, that this place called Kenya that you call home will no longer exist.
Wow.
It will be some slave land run by, people like Haiti gangs. It will be run by people like Barbecue, where people actually control the country and there's nothing you can do about it.
Wow. I mean, this is so profound. And I want to first remind the listeners
Ali
that,
doesn't like barbecue.
that
just for
you
the
are
record.
tuned in to the One Mic Show, and I'm your host and producer, Ali Badawi. We, of course, here talking to Kenyan Civic Educator Extraordinaire Morara Kebaso. He's been exposing billions looted by Kenyan government officials through phantom projects launched by President Ruto. Now, through his TikTok series, The Vampire Diaries, Kebaso has opened the lid and uncovered rampant theft of taxpayers' money by Kenya's ruling class. We'll shortly be talking about how travel abroad benchmarking trips have been misused to fleece Kenyan taxpayers, so stay tuned for that. Our lines are open. I know there's some of you who want to talk to Morara. The number to call is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak, so feel free to call in. Now, before we continue, we want to remind those who wish to support Morara. His M-Pesa number is available on his social media handle and his social media platforms at +254 708 985 611. I think Stephen JJ said he was keeping the tally. Please post the tally here, Stephen JJ. We want to see it. I don't know that there's someone who's already posted it in the comments. Please post it so that we know how much money we've given. I know Tabitha has been contributing.
Was Stephen JJ looking on both sides, YouTube and
yes? So we're gonna merge the tallies, and then of course we're also gonna reconcile at the end of the night with Morara, because he's the auditor in chief himself. He send a direct quack. It's not coming to the One Mic Show. It's not coming to any of
It's
us.
not going through Italy.
It's not going through Atlanta.
Yeah.
hatuwezi kata
Kuwait,
kidogo.
Cyprus, Panama, no.
You inaenda straight.
Direct injection.
Yeah, it's not going through these proxies in Hong Kong, sijui in
Si
Dubai.
tunaweza peana namba yetu.
Hapana, hiyo hakuna.
zi.
Hiyo ndo mambo ambayo tunataka
Kwani si
kumaliza
tukienda
Kenya.
kwa duka sisi waga tunaambiwa ati hii M-Pesa ifanyi tuma hapa.
Ndo hiyo sasa. So Stephen JJ, please tumalizie hiyo tufanyie hiyo tally.
What?
And then Indefatigable Wanjeri anasema
There's a tally already, boss.
there's a tally already? Okay, sawa.
Tabitha says it's 7:45.
7:45. Okay. So 7:45, that means tunakaribia 1,000.
$1,000.
Yeah, kwa hivyo for those who don't have the number, it's +2547089856111. You can send using all the money apps. Now here's the interesting thing, you know, like the different money apps wengine wamekuwa communicate na mimi hapa. Wanasema hujataja app yetu. Na mimi nawaambia pia na nyinyi pia hamjatulipa kuadvertise hiyo app yenu. Yeah.
So
yeah, but anyway, any money lending app, not money lending, any money sending app.
Yes.
Lending is becoming a trigger term. Any money sending app that you're using,
like
from Sendwave to Nala to Lemfi to MoneyGram to Western Union or whatever it is. Nazitaja too, just so that people know that they can send money to M-Pesa. Send it directly to M-Pesa, +2547089856111. As of right now, we have $745. We're gonna try to get to $1,000.
And don't forget, Nonini ame set aside 100,000 from the 4 million.
From the 4 million.
Nonini
ile ambayo pia tatuona pia kando.
Ile tatuona kando.
Hiyo ni ile pesa ya Monday, Simeon Monday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hiyo hapo tatuona kando, hiyo hapo tutenda nyuma ya tent.
Kuna yetu ya CS on Friday.
Yeah.
Nonini atatutenga.
How.
Yes. So Uno Mike, you had something you wanted to say.
I wanted to ask because Morara was, I was waiting for him to finish. But he talked about a CR12 form, and I just wondered, I think it's a form or something, and I just wondered, this being civic education, what is a CR12?
A CR12 is a form that you fill, which usually has the details of the directors of a company, how much shares they have in that company. So it has the name of the directors, their shareholding in that company, and their addresses. So how you can get a CR12 is, first you need an eCitizen account. And after you get you log into your eCitizen, you just search business search services. Then you go to official searches, that's under business search services. Then you pay probably, I think is if not 500, 650 bob. You will type in the name of the company for which you want to search. Then you'll pull out the CR12 for that company. Then you'll get the names of the directors.
So very interesting.
Okay.
And some of these directors, now they're doing it they're politicians and they're directors, and they're stealing in plain sight this information there. Jacob Korir here is saying we have the highest tolerance for things that don't make sense. How are we still this calm at this point, even with all the facts and figures we see in plain sight? Corruption is ripe unless we don't know the difference between millions, billions, and trillions. Really sad. Washeke says the amount of money stolen is enough to guarantee quality free education and healthcare for all Kenyans. Very true. S.C. Simon says, Morara, your civic education is unmatched. You have made Wanjiku in the village understand how corruption affects them in the village. Continue the great work. I will continue to pray for your family safety and well-being. Gidraf Nganga from Pennsylvania says, why on earth should Kenyans continue paying taxes? Why should KRA be gung-ho over tax compliance? It's high time Kenyans stomped their feet down, declared no more taxes until there's a proper management system. And then I can see Jacob Korir again here saying, I agree, brother, we need to change kabisa, and it starts from our minds. Washeke Ndirangu says, Kenyans even are also complicit in this thievery because some of us are beneficiaries. Exhibit A, a diaspora representative in Atlanta. We are with no clear mandate, and even the people she's supposed to serve are not aware. This came out during Loot All visit to the States in May. I think by Loot All, she meant Ruto. But correct me if I'm wrong. Now, Slay says... Slay says tumefika Panama surely. Yes, huko tulifika kitambo. And then let me see, Babahanya here, Lawrence Kenya says, how is Morara making sure he's safe? It must be very hard being a step forward. Also ask him how Ruto approached to buy him and if he had tried again. Now utatueleza hapo Morara.
Speaking of Babahanya,
yeah,
his daughter, my niece Zoe, is watching the show.
She's watching the show.
She's watching.
These are the Gen Zs who are born in the US.
These are not even Gen Z.
Yeah.
Zoe is what, 9, 10?
Alpha.
Yes.
Okay.
Alpha.
Okay, so
Zoe.
Kale kadogo.
Kale kadogo.
Uyo.
Okay.
She's
Born in the
watching.
US.
Wow. Yes.
Okay. Sawa. Now, Apa we have Jidraf Nganga saying again, make Kenya a huge plantation where everyone becomes a slave. Well, they need to look at history to remember who Kenyans are. The most powerful country then, Britain, tried and failed. Kenyans will go to war. Yes, so comments hapa zinakuja nyingi sana.
Ni mob sana.
No, Tabitha Njeri anasema tusukume tufikishe 1000 from 745. So we're currently at 745.
Kuna figure ingine hapo.
Yes, oh, there's a new number. So Steven JJ anasema I got 865, and try also to ruka kule YouTube. Watu wa YouTube na wao pia wamechacha huko. Don't worry, we'll get to you. So we're now at 865. So we're closing in on 1000. And then hapa Wanjeri anasema Haki, the more he talks, the more my heart sinks, like how? What country is this? And then Slay says there needs to be clear lines. If you're a politician, you and your company should not be awarded tenders, and you only have one job of serving Kenyan people. Wanjeri anasema Kenya will only change when the middle class is hit hard by the corruption. And then Nonini Mgenge True anasema, so you are required by law to declare beneficiaries owner in a company, and if you lie, it is a crime. In Kenya, are people prosecuted for that? Question mark. So naona hapa Steven JJ anasema there's an additional $50 Chief Louis, an additional 50 from Stephen Okoth, na 20 anonymous. And then Joy KRG anasema Joy anasema a very successful drive in translating finance bill into vernacular. I think we as diasporans should support something similar for Vampire Diaries. And then Apple, I can see the tallies being done. Again, remember, the number is +254 708 985 611. This goes straight to Morara Kebaso. Use any apps that you use to send money to M-Pesa na itam fikia. Slayer nasema there's an Instagram page that posted all vernacular translations of the finance bill.
Yes.
And then Washeke says mimi nimekunywa tequila cause my heart can't take it anymore. Judis anasema politicians wanahitaji kusalimiwa tena.
Didi Nyororo. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Carry on.
Yes. Sawa. So YouTube, we're going to come to the comments. Val has something to say, and then we're going to go back to Morara.
Mine is just a question. Kwani, in the Kenyan constitution, there is no clause that talks about conflict of interest. And if it's there, if someone knows in the chat, just
I don't think they talk about conflict of interest.
What would
they
it
talk
be called?
about what's the one, integrity. I think is
No, but
the one if you're convicted or something like that, right?
No, so the conflict of interest is talked about as in, like, if you're in government, you are only not allowed to do business with government if it is directly related to your docket. But kama uko Ministry for Health, unaweza kwenda ukachukua tenda ya airport, but maybe Morara
na watu wa finance,
maybe Morara can school us a bit more
that, because I think Sifuna was here, because remember he touched on the conflict of interest bill and how they were trying to streamline.
Yes,
it had not been defined.
Yes, so what they were trying to do was define. So ESCC was coming out and saying that what the politicians are trying to do, they're trying to find a way that it's open season for anyone to be able to get a tender, even them, their spouses or their chicks, their relas or whatever. But what they wanted to do was they wanted to clearly define that if you are an officer or you are there was a term also that, because it's about terminologies, that is a certain word that I can't remember exactly what it was, but if you're an officer or a government official, you cannot.
We have a civic educator, and he's also a lawyer.
He's also a lawyer.
People forget that.
By the way,
he's also a lawyer, so he's very familiar with the constitution. So Morara, talk to us about this question that Val was asking.
I think
right. As you may know, the history of making of our constitution, there was the Bomas draft, which was supposed to be the constitution, but when it was taken to Naivasha, they said the political class went there and negotiated some things out of the constitution and gave us a very weak chapter 6 of the constitution, which actually is supposed to be the one policing conflict of interest. But let me tell the people who are watching us from the diaspora today and elsewhere to know this. There is no shortage of laws in Kenya. And if there is something that disgusts me, it is seeing MPs on TV. or anywhere, those people are the worst idiots that have ever walked this good earth of the Lord. Those people, they are legislators who never legislate. For example, the data protection law, they copy word for word from, I think, the UK or European Union law. Wanachukua sheria imeundwa huko, wanakuja wanabadilisha where it says the United Kingdom and Wales, they write Kenya. Those are the laziest people that we have. Our parliamentarians are useless, utterly useless, completely useless. And whenever I talk about parliamentarians, I think everybody has heard me say, not once, not twice, that I completely don't have an intention of being a member of parliament. It will depress me, and I think I'll just die. I don't even want to be a senator at all, because that house is full of drama and useless drama. Because they call cabinet secretaries to that house to come and answer audit questions. But it's a charade. They've already eaten money from the cabinet secretary. They are just doing it for TV. Parliament is a TV show. It's nothing. Nothing happens there. It is the same parliament where laws are passed that are ridiculous. Laws that you can never pass in a normal parliament, they pass in our parliament. People don't even read those laws before they pass them. So we don't have a shortage of laws to police corruption. All these things we are talking about, or conflict of interest, what can we do? Kenya has some of the most punitive anti-corruption laws in the world. What we have in Kenya is impunity and lack of fidelity to the constitution. We have a murderer in parliament who shot someone in the head with a pistol, and he's in parliament. We have a person convicted of a criminal offense of embezzlement of public funds, who was even jailed in prison. He's in parliament. He walks with the president. He takes pictures with the president. He speaks sometimes even on behalf of the president. We have a acting inspector general called Masangeli, who's been summoned by court and refused to go. The court held him in contempt and even sentenced him yesterday. But do you expect him to go to prison? Because the sentence says he should surrender himself to the nearest prison, commission of prisons for processing. He'll never do that. Yet he's convicted of a criminal offense. If we were serious about what is going in Kenya, even William Ruto would not be president today. Because how do we vote for someone who has been an accused person trying to sell public land to Kenya Pipeline Corporation? How do we elect such a person? And that is why some of this money that you're sending me is going to be very useful. It's useful because you people in the diaspora need to realize that 80% of Kenyans are not like you and me. You and me are in the minority. The majority don't care about corruption. They cannot relate. They don't know that it's happening. Majority of Kenyans have never read the constitution. They don't know the system of governance. Therefore, they don't know even what they should be expecting from leaders. They are just on autopilot. 90% of Kenyans, or 95%, they've not read the constitution. That's why if you listen to my speech when I was at Okoa Uchumi Citizen Assembly, I said I want this constitution to be translated to local languages so that you can read the constitution in Kikuyu, you can read the constitution in Doluo, you can read the constitution in Ekegusi, you can read the constitution in Luya, so that people understand, number one, what system of governance are they supposed to expect? Because the reason we have weak accountability in Kenya is because people don't know. People don't have the knowledge. They don't know what should be happening. They don't know what expectations they should be having on government. If they read their constitution, they will know what government should do and what it shouldn't do. And that will help a long way in terms of citizens policing the politics. The other thing you need to know is that one thing that I believe is my greatest achievement with the Vampire Diaries, and I thank God for it, not by my own might nor by my power, but because He made it possible, is that for the first time in Kenya, I have caught the attention of villagers. For the first time. Villagers have been in this dreamland where when corruption cases are mentioned on TV, they assume that it is a Nairobi thing. They assume that 6 billion stolen from Ministry of Health. They are like, hiyo ni mambo ya watu wa Nairobi. For the first time, I have caught the attention of villagers and people in rural settlements. Why? Because I have gone to their villages and shown them how corruption is affecting them next to their doorstep. And that is very painful. That is why this government is completely uncomfortable with me, because I have made a headwind in terms of revealing corruption in a way it was not revealed before. You see, corruption happens every day. It's reported by the media. You know, one corruption scandal after another, one corruption scandal after another. In fact, right now you can say we have now suffered emotional fatigue. Corruption is part of the news every day. So until we don't take it seriously anymore, and it's intentional, politicians have made sure that they steal so much and so consistently so that you people are even tired of hearing about it until you start doubting whether it's even real. For the first time, I have gone to villages, Ikumbi, Kigundu Road in Muranga, Kigumo, and I've touched the heart of a Mnyanya of 70 years. You know, I was being told today when I was at the airport, somebody told me, my grandmother listens to your videos. And I was like, wow, how old is your grandmother? He says, she's 72. I said, oh, she's listening. Yes. Then I said, then Kenya is about to change. I have border people listening to my videos. I landed in Meru. I wanted to go to Isiolo. And while I was at Meru at a stage, border people were showing me pictures, videos that they follow me on TikTok, and they are listening and watching. I went to Isiolo, and you should see the faces of Mama Mboga over there. They've been sending me 10 bob, 40 bob, 50 bob. Those Mama Mbogas in Isiolo, they were absolutely excited. They didn't even think I'll come to Isiolo. When I mentioned their mortuary, they almost screamed. Hao ni Mama Mboga kwa soko, waliacha kuuza. Walisema leo hata hatuna haja ya kuuzia watu. We don't even want to make that money ya leo. Kama umekuja sasa, I even asked the public while on the mic, mko na haraka niende? They said no, usiende tueleze maneno. People are listening.
Yes.
And the people that we want to listen are the ones that are listening. And that is the most beautiful thing that has ever happened. Mama Mbogas are listening, border people are listening, villagers are listening, because these people make up 75% of the vote base. When the Gen Z protest failed in Nairobi on Nane, the first rally that William Ruto held was not in the city, because the people in the city are too wise. He went to villagers because those are the ones he can lie to. So therefore, I want to thank you for your contributions. That $10 you're giving, that $20, that $50, I want to assure you that that money is going to go to civic education. And in fact, one of the first things I need will be an office, because now I have whistleblowers bringing me documents from inside government. I have meetings with high-level government officials. For example, on Tuesday, I have a meeting with the Canadian High Commissioner. So for that reason, where I've reached now, I can no longer operate as just some civic educator or just some online personality. I've now to start rebranding myself into a youthful leader who can actually bring transformational change. And we need to start thinking about converting our activism into political action. I loved it when you began by saying, how do we convert all this activism into political action? The government is very happy when we remain leaderless, when we remain formless, because that means they can continue stealing without caring, because they'll dismiss us and say, those are some activists and content creators. They are worried when we start now taking political action because politicians didn't expect competition. They knew that they've already created a solid system where they've commercialized the politics in Kenya. The politics now is about money, and they are the ones who have stolen the highest amount of money, and therefore they are the only ones who have the capability of being elected. But we are changing the game. Initially, it was politicians giving people money. I am now preaching a new gospel where it is citizens giving politicians money. When they want you to be their leader, they identify you, they groom you, they package you, they open a pay bill, they contribute 10 shillings, 20 shillings, 5,000, 2,000, and they make you their leader. So from that day, you should know that they own you. But these other leaders, they've been stealing public funds, and they come and campaign. Then they continue stealing from the Kenyans in the name of narudisha pesa ya campaign. Ama natafuta pesa ya campaign next. So that is the situation of our politics in Kenya. And I hope that the diaspora can find their place to plug in, not just in terms of plugging in terms of providing resources, but also in terms of providing civic education. You know, sometimes we do so little and we think that it is little. Let me tell you, you who is listening to me, who is in the diaspora, kupiga simu kwa mama nyumbani, kumwelezea mambo ya ufisadi na mambo ya uongozi mbaya, you've already made a step in the right direction. In fact, you've already done so much. Because if everybody talks to their parents, can you imagine how many people will be able to reach? If you talk to your siblings, can you imagine how far we'll go? If you share material that is supposed to educate people about bad governance on your family WhatsApp groups, do you know how much people will reach? So the first thing is taking personal initiative. The second is being there for providing the resources. Thirdly, you can come and be present and participate. Fourth, you can pile pressure on the institutions that provide funding to the Kenyan government or that can keep the Kenyan government to account. If you provide pressure to them, that pressure can assist. The fifth thing that I want the diaspora to do is identify assets that corrupt Kenyan politicians are buying abroad. I challenged the people who are living in London. What were London? I told them, read the Auditor General's report. We paid 1.6 billion to buy the Chancery building in London, the Embassy building in London. We paid 1.6 billion to buy it in financial year 2022-2023 and 2023-2024. Where is the building? Yet we are paying up to 60 million shillings in rent per year. Ilienda wapi? And I asked the people of London to check. They checked on the website. They realized that we are still leasing the building. We don't own it. So that's something they can check for me. Kenyans living in Pakistan, Islamabad, they can check where 486 million went, which was supposed to build the ambassador's residence. 486 million has already been spent. The contractor has already been paid all the money. Is the ambassador's residence there in Islamabad? And I dare you, it's not there. Kenyans living in London, William Ruto bought 6 Boeing 747 airplanes.
Where?
That are insured by Lloyd's of London. I'm not speaking in vanity. The person who told me he himself is a billionaire and he lives in London. So he knows what he's talking about. That guy bought 6 Boeings to start an airline. The people living in London, if you have connections with Lloyd's of London Insurance, you need to find out, we need to identify those planes very quickly. Because some of the state assets that are being sold in Kenya, you heard about the privatization bill that was being brought. That was William Ruto and his friends trying to buy state corporations. They want to own the Kenya Meat Commission, Kenya Airports Authority. They want to buy in because they have so much cash abroad. Where do they want them to spend it? They don't want to spend it abroad. They want to buy things at home. That's why they want to privatize government parastatals. So I need people in the diaspora to help us identify. Then the other thing is most of the people that are abroad have also great expertise and professional excellence. Some of them are the best IT minds that we have in the world. They've just escaped a very corrupt system in Kenya. and went to look for other opportunities abroad. We have some of the best accountants living and working in the US and other countries. We have some of the best engineers living abroad. We have, some of the best marketing and public communications experts. We would like you to plug in on this and provide your professional expertise towards making Kenya a better place. So we will need that professional knowledge and expertise and research in terms of also identifying poor workmanship in infrastructural projects, being able to audit government books, because sometimes we receive so much information, it is in form of financial statements and Excel sheets, and we are unable to analyze it because we don't have the financial capacity to hire researchers on a permanent basis or on a good contract. So because of that, you can also plug in by being a volunteer and, just saying, whenever you have something in this line, give it to me, nitakuchambulia haraka haraka. So those are some of my ideas on how the diaspora can plug in.
Wow. Morara, like, now I understand, like on Lin Ngugi's show, that's when he was talking about your life, you are an A student. And now I understand why you're an A student, because all the questions the teacher has here that I had not even read, you are already answering them. It's like you've read ahead of the teacher and you already know, like some of the questions we're going to ask, which is just which is just so compelling.
Like Kamala.
It is very compelling, and it's very important. Those things that you've said about the diaspora, one of the reasons why I really, told a lot of people out here in the diaspora, let's talk to him and let's first of all try to hear from him, because people have so many ideas here and there.
Yes.
Sometimes we are here maybe detached from what's happening in the ground, which is good when it's coming directly from you, because we understand that these are the most salient things that we can do that can have some small wins. And I like that idea about small wins, because sometimes people look at this and they're like, this is too much money, these people are too powerful, there's nothing I can do. But when you inspire people by telling them, even just calling your mother, and telling them, or your grandmother, and telling them about this and that, or educating them on this and that, is a step forward. The other thing that has also been very impressive about you, which I think maybe people are not seeing now that you become popular, is also the performative aspect, which is where politicians for a very long time had defeated most other people. The way you wear the kaunda suits, and then you go on top of a car, and then unaenda unasalimia watu. In fact, just do an impression for us, because I will not do this justice. I will not do ebu salimia tu watu wa diaspora. Imagine you're on top of a car and we are a big crowd here. How would you greet us?
Now tutengee pesa.
So before I do that skit for you, I want to tell you the thinking behind it. Now, I know it's entertaining and I know you love it, but let me just tell you the thinking behind it. The thinking is this: you have to take away Ruto's voice. Let me tell you, the most valuable thing to a politician is their mouth. If you take away their mouth, they are unable to communicate. And if they are unable to communicate, they are unable to lie. And if they are unable to lie, you get them out of power. One thing I've been able to do successfully is to imitate William Ruto. And by imitating, to reveal the lies that he tells to Kenyans. And when you imitate him and you retell the lie using his own tactics, wearing his own clothes, standing at his own location, which is on top of the vehicle, I can tell you that dramatization goes into the hearts of Kenyans. Now, he soon will become shy. He will be unable to stand again on top of vehicles and lie to people. And that's a good thing, because then it gets him off the lie, and then we start seeing some real things happening. Watu wa diaspora, hamjambo.
Hatujambo.
Mimi nataka niwaeleze hivi, na nataka mnisikize vizuri. Tayari hapa kwa One Mic Show nilikuwa nimekwisha weka mpango ya kununua equipment ya 5.6 billion ili hawa mama mboga na hawa watu makanga na hawa vinyozi na wale wabeba ili hawa wote waweze kusaidika kutoka kwa mradi ya One Mic Show. Sijui kama tunaelewana.
Tunaelewana kabisa.
Mimi nataka niwaeleze hivi. Si mimi ndio nilikuja hapa kwa One Mic Show. Na si niliwaahidi, ni kweli si kweli?
Kweli kabisa.
Na ahadi ni nini?
Ni deni.
Ahadi ni deni. Mimi nimerudi hapa kwa mambo yenu ya maji na mambo ya stima na mambo ya barabara. Hapa Amerika hapa, ukienda hapa Minnesota, barabara ya kutoka hapo Minneapolis kukuja mpaka hapa New Jersey pale Hudson, hiyo nilikuwa nimeweka mpango ya 330 billion, lakini huyu contractor akakoa. Sasa nitaleta contractor mwingine kwa mpango wetu huu wa hii finance bill mpya. Nitazungumza na huyo mjumbe wenu ili tuweke pesa ingine ya kuunganisha watu na stima na maji na barabara, ili Wakenya wote waweze kusaidika kutoka kwa mpango wetu wa affordable housing. Sijui kama tunaelewana.
Tunaelewana. Tumeelewana kabisa.
Pale Seattle nimejenga 160,000 units of affordable housing ili vijana waweze kupata kazi ya mjengo. Mimi nataka niwaeleze hivi. Tunataka amani katika taifa letu. Hatutaki fujo. Hatutaki siasa ya maandamano. Mimi nitazungumza na hawa mabishop na hawa intercessors ili waombee Kenya yetu, ili Kenya yetu iwe na amani. Sijui kama tunaelewana.
Tunaelewana kabisa.
Halali. Kumbe ni wangwana.
Wow. You know, let me tell you something.
Oh my God.
This is the one area that for a very long time I personally had not figured out, because you had a lot of good people who wanted to implement change, but they did not know, they did not want to learn politics, or they did not want to learn, you know, like what these politicians do to get people's attention, which you did it to perfection. And you captured it to the T. Right now, when I hear President Ruto speaking, like, it just rings lies. Lies. This is a lie until it is proven to be true.
Otherwise.
Yeah. And now that has filtered down to the village. It has filtered down to the slums, where most voters are. Uno Mike, your speech
let me tell you. You know, I wanted to say this when he was giving a rundown and talking about Mama Mboga, Boda Boda. You know, it for him it's one thing to say, but it's another to show you barabara ambayo pesa zilikuwa zimetengwa. Kulikuwa na inaitwaje, not authorization, flag off, launch with a board and the curtain, the plaque, and then he goes back and the place that had the plaque is black, nothing.
Or the plaque is gone.
The plaque is gone, or if it's there, it's not there. There's no curtain. Barabara is Madhogodhanio. When you see a video of him going and people are around him and they're peeling off the road with their hands, na pesa zilikuwa zimetengwa. When he goes and shows you money that had been set aside to build a market that ends up being a parking lot or a shed that you can park cars, or maybe you're a mechanic.
Yeah.
You know, when you're visually shown that, it's when it sinks in that what?
Yeah, I
it's
know.
Messed up.
And then, you know, there was also recently, Morara, you posted barabara. I don't know what part of Nairobi that is, but there was a whole manhole, shimbo, like where cars are passing, like someone can easily, you know, like if a motorbike ikipita hapo inaweza kutumbukia huko ndani.
Yes.
Someone can actually die. And this is a major road, and it has been like that for a while, and cars are still moving around. Anyway,
so it's quite interesting. It's eye opening.
Yeah.
That visually now, and I think like what he was saying, how watu mashinani in the villages wanaona video, you know, like shosho ameona video, ameonyeshwa.
Yes.
And then on top of that, anaonyeshwa, by the way, this is happening hapo kwenyu, hii barabara.
Yeah.
Hapo.
Yeah.
Hii hospitali kama hiyo mambo ya Isiolo. You know, like, it's like, oh my God. Hapa tu nyumbani.
Yeah.
Isiolo.
Yeah.
That's my, so it's something that you can visually relate to, that is now, you can say that the blind are now starting to see.
Yes.
Which is remarkable. And that is what we needed to see, because tunasikianga. But when you actually see,
yes,
like now those people who, you remember when Isaac Ruto, that Isaac Ruto, one time we made fun of him, where he had they had bought ambulances and fire hose, firefighting equipment,
yes,
only for them to be power washers.
Yep. Power washer.
You remember?
Yes, I remember. And when it was being shown all over the
it was being shown, and back we're like, what?
Yeah.
That is what we are being. That we need to appreciate what we are being shown, because now us in the diaspora are seeing it. Now imagine show.
Yeah, someone who's actually from that
experiencing it.
Yeah, wacha tukuje kwa Omosh Fire and then tutenda kwa Mika,
yeah.
You know, tusikie wao kona nini ya kusema, and then we're gonna come to the comments. I hope you're still keeping the tallies both on YouTube and on Facebook. The numbers are up there, +254 708 985611. This money is going directly to Morara Kebaso. Haipiti Hong Kong, haipiti Dubai, haipiti Atlanta, inaenda straight kwake. And of course, you see, he's now meeting the Canadian High Commissioner. You know, he needs an office. You know, like he needs researchers. He needs people to be able to do certain tasks for him.
Shirandula has offered his IT services.
Yes, he's offered his IT services.
We are volunteered you
to hack all those government bloggers and wipe out all
what
their
do you call
phones.
that guy of Systemia Facts?
Dennis Itumbi.
No, there's a name. You have a name for him.
Dennis Dennis Mayai.
Okay,
yes.
sawa.
All these people, by the way, all these people who are blogging on behalf of the trying to deceive people. I think all these people should be put on notice. Weko wengi sana. Now they're recruiting Hussein Mohammed. I remember Hussein Mohammed called when Morara, he needs to cool out. Hussein now needs, he's a good journalist, you know, like I've known him as a good journalist before. He has been misused. He has been misused. Ameanza kutumika vibaya, but now these are the
Ali
people
will
who
give
need
him
to
a
understand.
chance to nini. To rectify.
Let's give him a chance to reform.
No chance.
But
we
there's
should
a
ask
problem.
Morara that question. He needs to be given a chance to rectify.
Wacha tutamuuliza Morara hiyo swali, because he called. They were not challenging what Morara was saying. They were not challenging the projects. They were not challenging that. But walikuwa wanakuja tu anasema hapana. Morara kupigiwa simu na president.
Thank you. That was all.
Ngoja kwanza Ali.
Yes. Mika.
Huyo jamaa hajakuwa journalist for 2 years. So stop calling him that. He hasn't been a journalist for the last 2 years. He's been the spokesperson for state-ups.
Yes.
Amekuwa kidanganya for the past 2 years. He's been lying for the past 2 years. So wacha kujaribu kumtetea hizi.
Lakini ni mtu wa
Hussein, I tried to save you, but
ni mtu wa Ali ni mtu wa Nairobi West ama ni wa Wagadi?
Wanajuana kwa majina.
Hussein nimejaribu kutetea, but sasa hapo saa ujipange. But Omosh, and then tutarudi kwa Mika. Just so tell us.
You want me to go with the comments? You want me to
the comments I'll be honest, the YouTube comments, they've overwhelmed us. There's over 400 people there.
Let me speak about the issue of William Ruto calling me so that I don't lose it.
Oh yes, okay. Please go ahead.
You know, I'm not known for lying, and I know that if you tell one lie, all your truths will become questionable. But also, there are extents that I have been tempted to go to prove that the president calls me, that I don't want to go to, because then I will synchronize myself. What I mean to say is, if the president calls you, it is in strict confidence. And even if you don't like whatever he says on the call, you may want to just respect that it is the president that has called and keep your conversation private. So this expectation that Hussein had, that probably I should have recorded the president, or that I should have gone to very great lengths to try and prove that the president called me, was neither here nor there, because the upshot of it would have been now leaders who want to speak to me would be worried, because then it means you are not a dependable person. People cannot identify with you as a person of integrity who can keep certain conversations private. But the truth, the undecaying truth, and someday if I become president, by then tafuta hizo records nizichambue vibaya sana, naweza tafuta watu wa IT ni put on a very big embarrassment hao watu wawili, Hussein together with his master William Ruto, because they refuse that they didn't make the call, which is Hussein wouldn't know anyway. He was not there when the call was made. But he was woken up from his sleep to call TV and deny something he didn't know. I was at KICC attending an event called Okoa Uchumi Citizen Assembly. I was supposed to be a speaker at that event. While seated, my bodyguard told me that the government spokesman Isaac Mwaura is outside the door and wants to see me. Out of respect, I walked outside, met Isaac Mwaura, we talked, he gave me his number, I gave him my number, I explained to him a few things, he explained to me a few things. Little did I know that Isaac Mwaura, in a corner somewhere, had a cameraman photographing me. And the mission was, wanipige picha nikiwa na Isaac Mwaura so that I look like they've already compromised me. Huyu tushamuongelesha. So I didn't know that the photo was taken. It was taken without my knowledge. I went back into the citizen assembly. I gave my speech. While I'm in the car headed home, my PA shows me something that is trending on Twitter to look at this photo. And it's not Mwaura himself who has posted, he gave it to his bloggers. So they've posted it now with their fake accounts. It's now trending that they've already bought me. And by the way, I would like to let Isaac Mwaura know that I will audit him too. Because I suspect that he might have used my photo to extort public funds from the government. Because he might have been given money and upetie Morara, then he ate it, then took a photo with me.
Yeah, Morara, buana.
If it can happen, it happens all the time.
Ish.
Money is even given to someone atipeleka kwa mchango. The guy goes there and takes photos.
That's true.
So I'm worried that the guy might have used my name and my good picture to try and extort money, public funds. But Mwaura, when he took my number, he told me the president wants to talk to me. I told him, why doesn't he invite me to a meeting? He said no. Before the president went to Oparanya's homecoming, he called me because, okay, it was not him speaking at first, because I got a call. Nikaambiwa, hey, somebody wants to talk to you. So I wondered which somebody. I just said, haya mpe simu basi. Nikasikia, haya bwana Morara, ujambo. It's the president. Obvious. His voice is unmistakable. And you see, the president is very keen on knowing your history. He began by asking me where I'm born, my parents, where I went to school, what are my qualifications, what have I studied. But he didn't ask me whatever I'm doing or to what end I'm doing it. He didn't even complain that hii mambo nafanya sijui ni mbaya or what. No. He just knew my history. He asked me like a friendly talk. Then he told me, you are a young man with potential. Serikali ni kubwa, nitakuweka kwa mpango. Nitakuja nitaangalia hii mahali naweza kuweka hata wewe ni kugroom. I told him, Your Excellency the President, thank you for the offer, but I'm fine. I'm okay with wherever I am. Then he told me, haya ni sawa kijana, tutaongea. And he cut off the call and that is it. But Hussein denies he was not there. And I cannot go to the lengths of recording a president to try and prove that he talked to me. I wished that they had called to controvert the facts of what I was speaking about on TV that day.
Yes.
Waseme hii project amedanganya.
Yes.
Hii haikuwa 808 million. Ama hii haikuwa 1.2 billion. Ama hiyo yenye anasema haijafanywa, hiyo kitu imefanywa, niko 100% sure. Wangesema vitu kama hizo, unajua hata Kenyans wangesema kwani ukijana kwani anatuambia nini? But they have never ever controverted any point that I have made factually. They've never controverted it factually. Hadi yenye nimereveal jana ya Kenya Pipeline Corporation, ngoja uone how quiet they will be about it. Because whenever their mouth is full of food, they can't talk. They have table manners.
You know, one other thing that Morara can be very good at. Morara is a very humorous person, despite the fact that he's doing God's work.
Yes.
And he's doing very serious work and very dangerous work. But he never loses his sense of humor, which I think is part in what really connects
helps,
him.
yes,
Also,
helps
especially with people down in
Yes.
the village na nini, wanaelewa hizi vitu na ana understand lugha yao. Mbakatana, what's your name? Nimesahau jina yako. DJ Omosh.
Atlanta.
Omosh.
Oh, sorry, Omosh.
Omosh, DJ Omosh Fire. Yeah. You know, like you are to say something and then we'll go back to
Omosh.
Mika and
To
then
Mika,
tutarudi kwa
Guy.
Morara. Yeah.
Yani unajua pale tumefika hapa, I don't even know where we should start. The only thing I can ask here is, you talked about something called odious debt and what we can do as diaspora to or should I say, what's the right word? What are our options with this odious debt? Can we go the Mozambique way and say sisi tuna deny, or what? As a lawyer, and also as our or should I say the people's watchman at this point, what would you advise us to do with this odious debt?
And to piggyback on that, I think this also chimes in, is somebody's asking, what do you think of Jimmy Wanjigi? Because Jimmy Wanjigi is one
umeweka yote.
I'm like, let me just put it in there, because who's Jimmy Wanjigi?
Yeah.
And because, again, he talked about the government not contra, he used a big word over there. What is that? Contravening? No, controverting. Sorry. Jimmy Wanjigi has talked and addressed about odious debt.
Yeah.
On top of that, he has educated us on what should happen in the process of budget and whatever it is. And nobody yet, even from government, has come to controvert whatever he has said. Nobody has come and said what he's saying is wrong. Right? And that goes to his point. If nobody's been able to controvert what he has said yet. So in addition to what Omosh is asking about odious debt, and people are asking on YouTube, what do you think of Jimmy Wanjigi? What's your opinion? Morara.
First, let me say Kenyans should all be grateful for what Jimmy has done. He has spent a lot of his money in terms of hiring researchers. He has spent a lot of his money in terms of hiring lawyers. He has hired even consultants from abroad to come and put this together. He has really tried in terms of bringing to perspective what odious debt is and how we are losing money. He has also spent a lot on court cases. As you know, he's been one of the greatest support pillars behind the nullification of the Finance Act in court. The Finance Act that was declared unconstitutional by the High Court and by the Court of Appeal, and now it is in the Supreme Court. He's been supporting that effort very, very much. So we are grateful to what Jimmy has done, because Jimmy is doing what we should all do, following the money. And since he's been eating with these crooks, he knows them better than we do. What I don't know is Jimmy's intentions, why he does what he does. But sometimes you see, we don't look at the intentions, but we also look at what we are gaining in terms of civic education, in terms of knowledge.
Yep.
So he may have his own intentions, but so far so good. He has done a lot of good work, which we are really grateful for. Mambo ingine yake tutajua kuenda mbele as things become clearer. Remember, God does not use perfect people. So don't expect Jimmy Wanjigi to be an angel. I've seen people say, oh, this is a billionaire who participated in the theft of public funds. This is someone who was just stealing with them. He's probably bitter that he was not given a certain tender. Well, all that could be true or false. But you should know that God does not use perfect people. God uses imperfect people. And God has a very good reasoning why he uses imperfect people. He uses imperfect people because when he uses imperfect people, there is no doubt that if it was not him seated on the throne, that thing would have happened. For example,
Amen.
if God had allowed Absalom to be the king, Absalom was already tall, he was already handsome. He was so handsome that his hair used to be weighed every year. His hair. He used to sit at the city gate and people used to come to admire him and used to judge cases at the city gate. So everybody expected that Absalom would have been the king. But you see, God raised the son of Bathsheba. Bathsheba is someone who got into this marriage through adultery. She was Uriah's wife. Her husband was killed so that she can be stolen. And here she is giving birth to the next king. So you'd expect that, you see, King David had 7 other wives. Why didn't God choose the one that has a proper, as a proper story rather than this one who came in by adultery? Or why choose Solomon? God chooses imperfect people because the Bible says his strength is made perfect in weakness. That when you are weak, that is when his strength is shown. That is why God used Moses. You should remember that Moses was a murderer and a fugitive from justice. Moses himself was a stammerer. So that is why God uses those kind of people, because when he does something, then there is no doubt that if it was not him doing it, if it was not him seated on the throne, it would have happened. So that's what I can say about Jimmy Wanjigi, that is neither perfect, but the work he's doing is very notable.
So, Paul.
Now, fast forward. You asked me about odious debt and what I think the diaspora can do about odious debt. The first thing we need to do is we need to audit the odious debt, and we need to demonstrate that it is actually odious. That's the first thing we should do. Now, it's not difficult to audit the odious debt. We can do it as Kenyans with the publicly available information. You as a Kenyan, you can already audit the odious debt. How can you do it? Go to the National Treasury website, search for something called the latest debt register. When you get the debt register, it will have all the debts, the amounts that were borrowed, which project it was meant for, the year of maturity, how much we've paid, how much we've not paid. It's all there. Now in that debt register kuna uongo mingi na ukora mingi na vitu mingi zimebadilisha, so be careful for the fake news hapo ndani ya your debt register. So what you will be looking for is matching the project with the money, because our constitution says you can only borrow for development. So you have to match the money with a development project. If we are able to match all the money with the development projects, then we will have made a step in the right direction, because then we will know that which odious debt was stolen and in which year, and who was the financier, who was loaning us the money. So the first thing is to acquire the knowledge. So we need to audit it, and we cannot trust William Ruto to audit the foreign debt, the odious debt, because he, Uhuru, they stole this money together and of course used it to bribe Raila. So Raila will also be asked ile pesa ilikununua kwani ilitoka wapi, together with Kalonzo. So we can't trust any of those people to audit our debt, because none of them will give us the truth. All of them will obstruct the justice, and they will guide us down the wrong path and engulf us in enough smoke. We need to audit the debt ourselves as Kenyans. We are the only ones who can audit that debt. We need to do what we call mob justice accountability or mob audit. Inafaa tushikane hivi, kila mtu ashike moja moja, tukae chini tupige hiyo debt. Kwanza I'll just post that debt register on my X page. Kila mtu ai-download hapo, kila mtu apige analysis yake, tukuje meeting of minds kwa Twitter space tumalize hiyo story. As Kenyans, we are the only ones who can audit that debt, and I want to request, if there is anybody watching us or who will watch this video later who works for the National Treasury and has damning details about what we are looking for, because sometimes you get into a dark room looking for a black cat which is not there. So if this person can just help us identify and just point us to where we should be looking, atuambie tu angalieni hapa na hapa na hapa, ama angalia tarehe fulani, ama angalia financials fulani, hapo ndio mahali pesa upotea sana, I would be very excited if that person was to help us in such a manner. So the first thing is we should know which debt, who was the financier, who was it borrowed from, then we document it. Once we document it, then we now do a call to action. A call to action is number one, to notify those financiers that watafutani na William Ruto kwa nyuma ya tent walipane. Hiyo ni mambo yao yeye na wao na Uhuru. Yeah, we are not going to pay that thing. But we need to identify it first so that we know who we are communicating with. So that is what we can do about Odious debt. But I can confirm that indeed I've also done my own research, and Odious debt in Kenya comes to about 6.7 trillion.
Wow, 6.7 trillion. So that's almost 7 trillion. And I think the total debt that Kenya has is about 12 trillion.
It's about
so
10.4.
It's 10.4. Yeah, so 10.4.
More than half.
So about 70%, almost 70% of it
Odious.
is odious.
Yes.
Meaning, you know, like ukona debt ya 100k, lakini 70k, we ukupokea hiyo pesa.
Miyomosha alikula.
Yeah, so I think,
Surely.
Oh, sorry.
So I think it's very important that this thing is pursued, and we've already seen a successful case in Mozambique. So I think Kenya, we can come to this. Let me come to Mika, and then we're gonna go to Val, and then now we're gonna come closing
To the comments.
to the comments, and then we're gonna come back to Morara. Tutampatia time pia na yeye apumzike. Has been waking up at a very ungodly hour wherever he is in order to be able to talk to us. So Mika twende, and then tutakuja kwa Val. Mika.
Kwanza nilikuwa nataka tu kuambia Umosha juu Odious debt si ati ni debt tuna na Odi wa Moranga.
Yani
Hapo tumeelewana.
Tumeelewana.
Ni vizuri umweleze hizi vitu ajue.
Sikujua
hapo Odious anafia ni maodi kizao. Si maodi.
Sikujua we na Malkiat ni marafiki. Endelea.
Si Odi bet.
Si Odi bet. Si Odi bet. But anyway, for me, Morara, it's something that you said early on. You said that remaining faceless, tribeless, fearless, everything is what they want us to be. And you have to rebrand, and you are looking at rebranding into a youth leader. This is something that I know that it's not an easy thing. Most people might be seeing the delivery and the funny delivery and how good you are at it, but they don't know what you put into it. So just wanted you to share some of the troubles or the issues that you're facing and how you can be helped in being able not only to just turning into that youthful leader, but also understanding and making all the youths understand that we have a certain voice, a certain movement that we need to be following, or certain things you're supposed to do to achieve the change that we are looking for.
Okay, Morara. And before to hiyo jibu Morara, there's someone called Charles Mutua up on YouTube anasema, please come, I give you an office for the audit and civic education of Mambo ya Machakos. That's Charles Mutua. But anyway, Charles Mutua, you can inbox us and we'll get that information to Morara. I am Morara, answer Mika's question.
Thank you, Bishop Charles Mutua. I'm actually also reading the comments. I've read that he's a Catholic priest and he's excited that I'm using scriptures. So I'm also reading the comments.
Okay,
so Wakenya who are
mpande mbegu. Umepewa number.
So the Kenyans who are watching and participating, they should know that I'm reading. I'm reading those comments. All right, so let's go to political organization. Now, ladies and gentlemen, these people that hold our government to hostage, they are very happy when we are formless and leaderless. They are happy because then it means we don't pose a threat. By they don't mind being on the media and they don't mind being corrupt. They are used to it. They've accepted it as their title. So when you say William Ruto is corrupt, you are not hurting his feelings. He already knows he's corrupt. He's been called that for the last 30 years, and he's just fine with it. And many more people, when you say they are corrupt, they've stolen public funds, they know it's true. They are not in denial. They are in silent approval. And they don't mind. They are actually used now to being called so, and they are comfortable with the title. They've lost their conscience. So they don't care what you call them. The only thing that can affect these people is if you target their money and their power. Those two things will have them stay in the toilet every day for the next 1 week, 2 weeks. 1 month, years. Those people, they'll take dawa za pressure na dawa za they will be over the wataumia mbaya sana. If you target their power and if you target their money, hizo ndizo zile vitu mbili they can kill their wife for. These are people who can actually kill their own family, by the way. So those people, if you touch those two things, mtakuwa mmewaguza. So what we should be asking ourselves is, how do we touch their money and how do we touch their power? Kitu ya kwanza tujue their money is abroad. So the only way to touch that money is to identify it and kuimulika na torch. See, it's hidden in a dark corner. The solution to a dark corner inakuanga nini? A very bright torch. If we can identify land, the land that Ruto owns in Australia, that farm that he bought, and even find the land company that did the transaction, and even find the proxy company that he is using to own the land, and even dig its owners, of which hiyo ni kazi inachukua time na inachukua resources. But if you can find that information, that means you've smoked them out of where they are hiding their money. The other easier one is political reorganization. This Gen Z wave should not be left to just be some other ordinary protest. It should change the country. Let me assure the people who are watching today from the diaspora and everywhere that the country is in a state of tension. This Kenya hii saa hii vile mnaona hivi. I said it on JKL, I'll say it here again. It is the calm before a storm. There's a lot of tension in Kenya. And can I just give you one indicator of that tension? For you to know that there's tension in Kenya, look at the music and creative industry. Ni mwanamuziki mgani saa hii ametoa hit song na ilikuwa tu hii mambo wanaimbanga ya upuzi, mapenzi, breakups, drugs, gangs and clout and I don't know parties. Nani ameimba hit song saa hii? Hakuna.
I mean lately
hakuna mtu ametoa hit song hata moja.
Yeah.
All artists wako chini ya maji. Why? Because whenever there is tension, there is no creativity. People don't want to hear those songs. People want to hear about bad governance and corruption because that is the mood of the nation. A comedian called, a content creator called Crazy Kenyan.
Oh yeah.
Created recently. The video on Instagram has 47 million views.
Okay.
The guy is almost becoming Michael Jackson. Somebody who is in France sent us that video. It's been translated into French. People are watching it in France.
Damn.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Because that's what Kenyans want to hear. Kenyans want to hear about bad governance and about corruption. And they are listening to the conversations. They are listening to One Mic Show. They are listening to Radio Jambo. They are listening to JKL. They are listening. They want to hear who is that who is going to provide a solution. Nani anaenda kusema venye how we will kill this beast. Because that is what is hurting Kenyans sai. I can tell you right now, if you hold an election in Kenya today, tribe will not be one of the things that you will be talking on the stage.
Wow.
People will not care about tribe. They'll want somebody who can perform. Therefore, we need to organize our civic unrest and morph it up into political action. Political action begins with political organization. And a political organization is not a limited company. It's not an NGO. It's a political party. And a political party should have the ideals of the Kenya that we want. And it should be by the people,
for the people. So we need to start thinking very seriously about registering a people's political party, one that we own, one that is ours, that we are using as a vehicle to challenge this system. 2, we need a rise of leaders.
We need people to step out of their comfort zones. We need leaders of integrity to step into the civic space and stop thinking about problems at mimi sina pesa ya campaign, nini. If you are a leader of integrity, it's your moment, bana. Step on the stage and shine. Watu watakutusi. People say when kiherehere. That's the first thing they usually say about an outspoken person. Any person who is outspoken and confident, wanamuita kiherehere. Tuwe wachana hiyo kiherehere yako. No. If there is one thing I've learned from William Ruto, and I will continue to learn, but in the opposite, is consistency. William Ruto is consistent. Yeah?
Oh,
Yes,
absolutely.
that he is.
That is.
When he tells a lie, he tells it without blinking. He tells it 1,000 times. He tells it until you doubt your truth.
The lie becomes the truth.
And let me tell you, bana, consistency is powerful. The only way our youth are able to be brought into Al-Shabaab is because they are told a lie so many times,
Yes.
very consistently, until they believe it.
Yeah.
Religion is based on consistency. It's all about telling the gospel every Saturday, Sabbath, or every Sunday, consistently. That's how even fake pastors have been able to kuteka nyara wa Kenya, even in Shakahola, by telling them a lie consistently until they believe it, that if they stay hungry, they'll see Jesus and die. So, Kenyans, we have to be consistent. And I, as Morara Kebaso, it doesn't matter, hata tukibaki tukiwa watu 10, mimi na nyinyi mwenye kwa studio, I'm going to be consistent to the very end. And that is what all Kenyans should be ready to do. Najua Kenyans tumezoea, we lose attention too fast. We talk about this issue, then suddenly haibambi. We want something new. Then we move on to something new. So it becomes like, it's like we are watching a movie. We tuna watch hii kwa Netflix, hii haibambi, we stop that one, we start another one. Hii mambo ya corruption and bad governance, we have to consistently keep it as the number one topic in Kenya. It needs to be the number one topic from now to 2027, every day.
100.
That's why I even tell people, ukiwa kwa date na girlfriend yako, mmekuja coffee. 5 minutes ni ya kuongelea bad governance. If she's clueless on bad governance, leave that girl alone.
Mpaka kwa date. Mpaka kwa date mahali mnakutana msichana.
Date sio
kama
date.
ajui mambo ya bad governance, mnaenda wapi?
But Morara, to be fair, also say if the girl and the boy go out and the boy doesn't know about bad governance,
Yeah, leave
the
that son of Adam alone. Let him go.
Okay, all right.
So, we need to morph up into a political organization. You see, the problem with Kenyans is that they are afraid of politics. Is that siasa ni chafu? Siasa ni is a dirty game. It's a dirty game because dirty people are playing it. There are places elsewhere in the world where politics of issues and politics of development is done. Why is that one not dirty? We have dirty politics because we have dirty politicians. We have now elected into our elective institutions criminals of international repute. In our parliament, we have money launderers. In our parliament, we have wash.
Yeah.
In our parliament, we have cocaine traffickers.
Murderers.
In our parliament, we have sex traffickers. In our parliament, we have people do human trafficking. In our parliament, we have people who benefit from banditry. In West Pokot. And they are in parliament, seated, honorable members of parliament. And we expect laws. Which kind of laws do we expect from criminals?
Wow. I
It is
mean,
to drain up that swamp. And you see, you cannot drain the swamp without a replacement. Power hates a vacuum. That is why when Raila stepped out of opposition politics, I stepped in.
okay.
Because power does not want a vacuum. It must always be occupied by something. So if you remove bad leaders, you might put worse leaders. That's why when we were doing the Gen Z protest and people were saying Ruto must go, I was telling them it should be Ruto and Gachagua must go. Because you can't remove Ruto and replace with Gachagua. That is jumping from the frying pan to the fire.
Even worse.
Wow.
It's worse.
Wow.
So then we need to morph up into a political organization, and we need to encourage leaders of integrity. You know, I usually avoid this conversation about the youth, you know, saying that it is time for the youth to occupy leaders of position. Yes, it's true, it's time for the youth, but which kind of youth? Because we have youth who are very corrupt. Even in this government, we have young leaders in this government, like that Manyata MP Munjiri, who was apologizing to the president for voting no to the finance bill.
Wow. Yeah, that was very disappointing.
Yeah,
Very, very
we have
disappointing.
young leaders. Kwani, how old is Ndindi Nyoro? Or Nyororo, as
Nyororo,
it's called.
yeah.
Ndindi Nyororo.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Nyororo.
Very young guy. We have young leaders already in governance who are very corrupt, extremely corrupt. So then what we need is not necessarily young leaders. It's an advantage to have a young leader because of the energy and the foresight. But it's also good to have people of integrity. So me, my clarion call is, I'm calling on Kenyans of great integrity. It doesn't matter whether you are a Gen Z, a millennial, a baby boomer. It's your time to step into civic space and play an active role. Let us stop leaving our politics to idiots. Why should brilliant people like us be led by idiots? Fools. People who have questionable academic papers. They themselves, they cannot construct a sentence. They are even proud saying it in public that unajua mimi huko bunge, Oscar Sudi was saying, huko bunge unajua mimi.
That's what I was thinking of. Engineer.
Mimi huko bunge mimi siongeangi hiyo Kiingereza mingi, mimi sitaki hiyo Kiingereza. Mimi ni mkarabati. What is that? Hiyo ni nini hiyo? Kwani tulimchagua akae hapa nje ama bunge? And if he doesn't talk, then who is representing the people of Kapseret? So we need to clean up that parliament and remove the idiots from there completely. And who are going to occupy these positions? It's me and you, by the way. Mi naulizanga, and just check even my profile hapo kwa status. Nimesemaje, if not me, then who?
You know,
If not now, when?
yeah.
You know,
That's my question to all Kenyans.
Okay, sasa,
Wewe ukisema Morara, na wewe,
so
you can be a member of parliament.
yeah.
You can be a senator. Why are you doubting yourself? Why are you not taking up this? And we know you. We've been with you in the same chama. We've been family friends with you for a long time. We know you are a person of integrity, but you don't want to take up civic space. You are leaving it to criminals. Where do you expect good leaders to come from and occupy positions if you, who we know to be a guy who can deliver value, is refusing to take it up?
Can I
wow,
say-
wow. So Val has something to say, but real quick, Morara, as we come to a close and give you a chance to rest, I want you to think about this. You know, like you've again gone ahead of the teacher and already told us, you know, like what we should be thinking about now moving forward as far as converting the civil unrest to political action. So think about this. Tell us how exactly will it look? Because people on this other side, the criminals, the wash guys, the murderers, they are not gonna just sit back watching this. They are somewhere scheming, and they almost always tend to be able to convince people in the villages to vote and vote for them back again. So think about how it's gonna look, at least in the small, in the short run, before now we look towards 2027, and then tell us what you're thinking about. I know you've clearly said that you're not interested in being a member of parliament, a senator, a governor. You've said that multiple times before. So tell us if you are gonna be preparing to run for president in 2027. And before that, Val had something to say, and then we'll get back to you as we come to a close to wrapping up this show.
I was just going to emphasize what Morara was saying. So a few weeks ago nilikuwa, I think when Sifuna was here nilikuwa, I had said that, you know what, I'm going to vie for a political seat.
Yes.
In 2027. You know, it's just something that came to my mind. And what I noticed, and this is why it's so important that we have Morara here to speak to us, to the diaspora. I got so much discouragement from people here in the diaspora telling me that we focus na politics ya huku diaspora, we achana na mambo ya Kenya. You know? And that is something that diaspora, we do so much, where we separate ourselves from the issues back home. We fail to realize that also what concerns Kenya at home concerns us very much. Morara also made very good points about the economy. Sindio, when we lose, when the when the middle class is alienated, sindio, they're the last line of defense, sindio, Kenya automatically we lose our sovereignty. There is no going back. And this is our moment right now. Hata kama utasimama governor, utasimama senator, you will be and get 10 votes. At least you did it.
At least you
We
tried.
have to keep reminding the government that they need to be on their toes. We have to educate our younger ones. And when it comes to civil education, with what Morara is doing, I hope there are historians here who are going to work on changing and putting some of these things in our syllabus. You know, because I feel, I don't want to say the baby boomers are too far gone. There is still hope. There is people with integrity,
yes.
But this is our moment to shine and change it. Even though it wouldn't be in 2027, if people of integrity tutaingia in those positions, whether it's members of parliament, MCA, whatever those positions are, will be close to the finish line, close to making those end, close to reaching that end. So we have a voice. We can talk to people here. We can talk to people back home. We can do what it takes to support the cause and be in the cause. Morara is our we've said he's our spokesman, but like he said, we too, we can be spokespeople.
Absolutely.
Full disclosure, I always say, Ali is our representative. You're a man of integrity.
From the diaspora or
wherever Ali is to go.
Now,
Mimi niko na yeye.
the most important thing right now in the diaspora,
Yes.
we know that in parliament there's still an issue. We still don't have an IEBC. They said it's being reconstituted. I think one of the most important things, you know, because we're talking about small wins like Morara has told us, we need to be prepared. Once IEBC is reset, we need that registration to come here, because Morara diaspora, we've been experiencing voter suppression. I think that's another thing that that will brief you later, especially here in the US. There's been serious voter suppression. The way the registration was done in the last election, IBC gave us a 2-week notice that they're going to be here for 1 week, and we have a whole continent where people need to plan to travel and everything. So we're not able to register a lot of people to vote. So we've been organizing ourselves here, myself and Val and a couple of other people, and even here in the studio we've been organizing to get people to have their IDs or to have their passports ready, so that when that time comes, we register en masse.
run and register.
We run and register en masse, such that when we are fighting for our own representation, because Morara, we are also fighting to get our own representation as diasporans, because we don't have our voices effectively represented in the government bodies in Kenya, in the legislature, in parliament, in Senate. We don't have representation, and we are looking for representation. Not a member of parliament of Kieni who will also say, oh, nitaangalia pia mambo yenyu. We need dedicated representation like other African countries have. I think countries like Cape Verde, there's other African countries. I want to say, I'm not sure about Madagascar, but there's a couple of African countries that have representation, and it works. And this representation, sile kwenda kutafuta tender. I mean, because I think the people who are gonna get into the next parliament will have the toughest job ever. With this new Kenya that has come up now, they will have the toughest job ever, so you have to be very prepared. If you're going there to cooler tenders and to get rich,
utajua hujui.
utajua hujui, because this Kenya that we are going into right now, the phase that we are in right now, we are not, like Morara said, what you're seeing right now is a calm before a storm that's gonna come like a loud thunderclap. And in fact, the more silent it is, I think the more worried President Ruto should be. Mike.
No, I was gonna say this. So you guys have made some interesting points, but what Val was saying, over time, water smooths a rock.
Yes.
Piecemeal by piecemeal.
Hakuna mkate ngumu mbele ya chai. Yeah.
Unajua nini? Let me interrupt you kidogo hapo kidogo. There's a mantra that I tell myself every time, right? I do not fail because I quit, right? I succeed because I don't fail. I don't quit at every failure. So every time I make a mistake, I pick myself up and I continue. So it's the same thing with these movements, right? Gen Z movement was going, ikakuwa infiltrated, ikashuka. Kina Morara came up, right? So it doesn't mean that just because there's a failure at one point, we quit tunaachia hapo. No. The fact that we continue, we keep raising from every failure is the reason why we get champions. Even people like Kina Kobe, Kina LeBron, Kina Nini, they had to train, they had to get injured, they had to have bad seasons, they had to lose championships. They have to remember when Giannis was interviewed and he was asked, how does it feel to fail winning? How does it feel that you failed, you not want to? And he said, you call that failure? Like you call winning the division, playing to the championship a failure? And so he asked, if you're calling me a failure, what do you call the rest of the other teams? Because it's a competition, and every season, every team comes out with the best, hoping it's going to finish at the top and win the championship. So nobody comes out that the fact that I'm a failure. Everybody comes out with the fact that I'm going to win. So the same thing here, in that this is a fight whereby you don't look at obstacles as failure. It's a fight whereby we morph and we adapt. Politicians know it. They know how to play it. That's why they always rebrand themselves every 5 years, 4 years. It's the same for us as the people who are fighting for our country. We need to be able to understand that, celebrate every win, lick our wounds, come back. They will always give us opportunities to beat them in what they're doing. Ni waizi vile Morara amesema na hawana aibu. Huu ni ule mwizi anakuibia alafu bado anakuambia nipatie viatu nitoke nje kwa sababu kuna like ni ule mwizi ana aibu kabisa. Like I feel kitu, so watakupatia chance ya kuwapiga bado.
Okay.
So yeah.
Can I game plan this thing for you guys?
Yes. Go ahead, Morara.
Wacha niwaambie, unajua sometimes they say don't say your strategy in public, but sometimes some strategy you just say it so that the enemy is aware. Kitu ya kwanza tunahitaji, we need a political party. Once we get a political party, we need people of integrity to start preparing to take up leadership positions. Na usingoje uambiwe na Morara. Hii si ODM mahali kunauzwa ticket. Ati unaenda kwa Ida Odinga unauziwa ticket milioni 10. And this is not UDA mahali una prepare kurigi. This will be a party by the people. Wewe kama umejipanga, jitayarishe, ngoja nominations hapo mbele, go make yourself popular. And the best way for you to make yourself popular and to you have the interest of the party at heart ni civic education. So first step ni civic education. Anybody who wants us to form a political party together in 2027, ama unataka kuwork na mimi, ama kuna mtu mwingine umeona unataka kuwork na yeye, the only way you prove your worth is do civic education, because without civic education we are losing it. Ruto will be voted in amazingly if we don't do civic education, because watamvotia kiujinga tu vile wanapiganga. We must do civic education, kuinject kila siku, kuinject every day. That we must do. Second, let's open a political party. Mi tayari hata niko na jina. We can use Inject.
I like
Yeah,
that.
we can use Inject as the political party. Initiative for National Justice and Transformation.
You've thought
And
about it.
transformation, yes.
Yeah.
Party for transformation, Inject. Hiyo jina ilienda wapi wewe na nilikuwa nishaifikiria.
Hey, i patent kabla mtu aibe. Unajua hawezi achezi. Wewe unaweza kuwa unasema hivi labda iko mtu yuko tayari anairegister huko. Alafu ukienda kuregister anasema Morara ndakuuzia. Ndio hii hapa. 10 million.
Kesho Mpashogram wanasema Morara starts new party Inject. Alafu mtu ende before ujue mtu ameregister.
Aya, no, the ideas are so many. Hata wakiregister hiyo, tunaregister tena ingine. The ideas, look, whenever we are doing mob audit and mob accountability, one advantage we have is that there is no shortage of ideas. The value of a candidate in 2027 who we want to support to hold any position, whether it's Governor Nairobi or what, it's how much civic education you've done and whether we've seen you doing it and how much impact it has had, because we need the civic education ifike kila mahali. Morara cannot do it alone.
Yes.
I need people.
Kabisa.
I need people in every corner of Kenya. Nikiwa Nairobi nikiinject, nahitaji Lamu kuendelea kuinjectiwa.
Kabisa.
Nahitaji mtu Lodo anaendelea kuinject, na mtu mwingine anainject Ugenya, na mwingine anainject Homa Bay, na mwingine anainject Nyamira, na mwingine anainject Isiolo, na mwingine anainject Meru, mwingine anainject Kirinyaga, mwingine ako huko Tharaka Nithi anaendelea kuinject. We need simultaneous injection all the time. And the only way that can happen is if our followers. Ndio maana umeonanga watu wakirecord video wakisema hi, I'm a student of Morara University of Applied Science and Mob Audit, and I'm here on this road. Look at this road, ilitengewa hii pesa, soma jina ya mwenye alilaunch. Those people who are my students who've been doing that, hao ndio candidates by the way. Hao watu waanze kujipanga. They should start planning themselves for a free fair nominations. Tunatengeneza chama. We are cleaning up parliament. We are taking power for ourselves. It's not about who we will vote for. We will vote for ourselves. Yeah.
Okay.
Raundi atupei mtu, tunajipea. We are taking power back to the people. Our siasa, we are cleaning them up. Not all of course, 90% of them. There are few who we can retain who are wise and who are good. But 90% of them, they belong in the political dustbin. Yes. Hii political party tukisha kuwa nayo itakuwa na bank account. Let us start raising money and putting in that kiti. Tufungue GoFundMe, tuanze kuweka pesa kwa kiti ya chama. Na chama iwe na accountability mechanisms. We can raise up to 10 billion by the way in that account. Tusijiangalie tujione hivi hivi. In Kenya there are people of means. Kuna watu hadi matajiri Kenya hapa who are billionaires who are tired with this government. They are completely disgusted and frustrated with it, and they don't mind giving money. In fact, even some of the enemies of this government, they can also give us money. For example, this billionaire called David Langat, siwashako sana na Ruto, alete pesa hapa tufanyie civic education.
Inject.
Peter Munga, the chair of Equity Bank, si wamekosana na Ruto juu ya madeals zao. Walete pesa hapa tufanyie civic education. Hata Wanjigi alete pesa tufanyie civic. These are people of means, they are billionaires.
So pesa iko.
Increase pressure.
Watoe pesa,
not decrease.
Itu inject nayo.
Inject.
Sense. Na wasiogope kufund that they are funding a revolution. Oh yes, revolutions are funded. They must be funded. Otherwise, how do you stand a chance against a trillionaire like William Ruto? What chance do you stand without serious resources? Because you need to move around the country. You need sound. You need staff. You need security.
Yes.
You need intelligence. You need to buy intelligence. Sometimes you buy information. You need to buy information, sometimes even from NIS, so that you stay ahead of the pack. Yeah, you need media. Media is money. These media people, they are just brokers. They are all over the place. wanting this, wanting that. Even if they don't ask you for money, even just showing up on media, the strategists that are planning you for that, the communications experts that are prepping you for that, you need sometimes even not to go by road, to fly because of how many meetings you have to do, maybe using a helicopter. We need resources. Na hiyo party tutaweka resources hapo ndani na tutapiga William Ruto range yenye hawezi iba. You know, I've seen somebody saying in the comments, by the way, IEBC itaiba. It is true, William Ruto is already reconstituting IEBC and he wants to put his stooges inside IEBC so that he prepares to rig 2027. But I can assure you this, hata ukiwa na commissioners wote 7, kuna range unaweza pigwa kwa election yenye si ya kuiba. You see, you only rig in an election if you are 50-50, toe to toe.
It's close.
So unapata unaiba kama 300,000 votes or 500,000 votes to cover the gap. I want to assure William Ruto that the first day of counting, akiwa 1.2 million votes, the leading candidate will be 4 million votes. Atakuwa amepigwa range ile yenye uibi, yani ile yenye una prepare concession speech.
Inject.
Hakuna kitu ya kuiba hapo. Ni kuprepare tu concession speech.
Noma hiyo hapo, noma.
We must take this guy out of power kabisa. Na aki kwa bahati fulani akitushinda, we need majority in parliament.
Yep.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Super majority.
Yep.
A super majority.
Fingers and still become president of this good country that people died for. Then we need majority in parliament because we're going to impeach that guy on his first day in office.
Where?
Yep.
Inject.
Diaspora inject.
So now kwa vile show iko karibu kuisha, there's someone who called, you know, watu wanangoja mpaka last minute,
but we'll take this one.
Simu, we'll take the call, but let me just read a few comments before we take the caller. So caller ngoja kidogo, and I'm sorry, today the comments were so many, there are over 500 people on YouTube, so yani muda to overwhelm na comments, but we really appreciate you all.
We don't mind the calls.
And the number to contribute is pinned on both YouTube and on Facebook.
Yes.
That's +254 708 985 611. Continue injecting money pale ndani. Sijui kama tumefika 1000, we had a plan of getting to 1000, we had a goal. Kama tujafika, muko na pesa, you are people of means, like Morara Kebaso said.
Tutaambiwa hapo kwa...
Yes, you are people of means. Tally,
by our accountants.
Yes, by our accountants. Tally, YouTube na Facebook. Na kama umecontribute YouTube, please weka kwa comments ndio watu wetu watali, and then at the end of it, our chief auditor Morara atatuambia ni what small amount Diaspora was able to sindikisa him with, but we
in these
are
3
planning,
hours.
Yeah, in these 3 hours, but we were planning at least for $1,000. Hiyo kidogo at least itasaidia hapa na pale.
Mafuta na nini.
Yeah, so hapa I can see Danson Kahingo anasema you are very brave, a Kenyan patriot and doing a great job, Morara. Na Munene Njero anasema great show and great conversation. Thank you, Mr. Morara Kebaso Snr, for the great presentation. When the great revolution is happening in Kenya, how can a Kenyan in diaspora be part and parcel of a new beginning? And you've told us a lot about that. Systems in the first world countries seem to work. How can we realize this level of development back in Kenya? Is migrating abroad the ultimate solution for Kenya's development? Do we accept the fact that Kenya was destined to end in corruption, poverty, and suffering? Is there something solid enough we can do? And Tabitha Njeri is saying this man is brilliant. Remember, Tabitha Njeri is the one who started this train. Alianza na dola ngapi? Dola 200 na watu wanamsindikiza na 10, 20, 50, $100. So please endeleeni kusindikiza at least ifike $1,000 ndo Morara ize kuendelea na kazi yake. And then Slayer is agreeing with Tabitha that Morara is very brilliant. Nonini Mgenge True anasema very true. Country is not in the mood. And Nonini, thank you so much for creating that music that was living with the time. And then I have here Award Joe Port says, Morara, thank you for the solid, consistent work you are doing to unmask corruption. Aside from social media, do you have a depository for all the projects you have been auditing, like a website? Hiyo Morara atakuja tatuambia. But let's pick up the call. We're going to read a few more comments and then to tender. So caller,
thank you for calling the One Mic Show. 8354. Name and where you're calling from.
Name and where you're calling from, and briefly tell us, talk to Morara.
Oya mgenge tu hapa ni aje watu wangu mko fiti.
Tuko poa. Nonini in the building. Haya, Nonini ongea hapa na
quick questions to like swali tu tatu na Morara hapo ya kwanza niko kuuliza like what happens to our watu wagana embezzle funds like the governors, the contractors of all the projects that he's been unearthing? What measures should we put so that our watu wasiende tu scot free? The fact you can see with our politics, they get into the office, they loot all they can, mpige kelele shauri yenyu, they will leave office. They're not even interested at vying for that seat again. Muona wa Kenya wana threaten watu, wewe ni one term governor, wewe ni one term president. Mtu akiba billions, they don't care. Ataenda after your one term. What measures can we put to make sure watu can also be, unajua, can be watatafutwa even after they finish their terms? That's one. Second, about the party na pia for presidential ambitions Morara, campaign financing. Do we have like campaign financing laws? I think it's about time we start thinking of how we can champion that. I don't know, we don't have a parliament. Your parliament yetu ilianguka 25th June. But how can we have campaign laws, campaign financing laws whereby tunajua tunachanga do? Unaona kama hiyo One Mic Show, Morara hapa nafaa kwa memaliza, tuna make sure iko na $1 million imeingia. Like you saw Kamala Harris after debate, 47 million immediately iliingia kwa campaign yake. And you know there are laws of how she can spend that money. Haezi tumia for personal expenses, needs strictly for campaign, na kuna laws na guide how she should do it. So is it about time we have that in Kenya? Ndio itakuwa easier. Wewe bilioni unaongea juu yake, atakupatia 100 million too easy. Ya mwisho tu kabisa ni umeongea mambo ya creatives. Today I liked your post about the creatives because a lot of creatives wanapenda kwa fence. Whatever Morara is doing with the country, kwenda expose my projects. I've been doing that in the music industry. Most of the musicians don't understand how money is being embezzled in the CMOs, kuanzia Kenya Copyright Board to the MCSKs, hizo ma CMOs auto collect royalties. Ukipata time Morara tunaweza like ndakugetia hizo ma audit ama pia tu visita watu parastatals tuanze na Kenya Copyright Board. Chairman huko anapontiwa na president. Mbona chapa inaibwa? Wasanii wengi wa understand why chapa inaibwa. The way you break down this project is the same thing that happens in the music industry. Basically wizi kwa kila mali. So ukipata type itakuwa fiti ukiweza kuvisit au kwa wasanii, lakini pia wasanii waimbe ngoma zina make sense. Thank you and thank you for all your efforts you've been doing. That's it.
Okay. Haya, huo ni
alikuwa na rap ali ama hizo ni maswali? Sorry.
Nonini mgenge tu.
So I think I answer those first.
Yes, go ahead.
So thank you so much for your questions. I value them, and thank you for being a concerned Kenyan. The first patriotic duty that you have as a Kenyan is to be concerned, and that is what I've been trying to teach Kenyans, to tell them that, look, we are demanding a lot from politicians, but what are we demanding from ourselves? We need to remember that we also have a citizen responsibility. Unafaa ujiulize venye tuna demand accountability kwa wanasiasa. Wewe kama Mkenya, are you accountable in terms of your responsibilities as a citizen? Are you doing your responsibility? And one of that responsibility is to vote responsibly, to keep leaders accountable. So sisi kama Wakenya tushaelewa kazi ya wanasiasa na tushaelewa vile wamefail. But ni vizuri pia tujiulize kazi yetu sisi kama wananchi wa Kenya ni gani, and where have we failed? Because the reason politicians are rogue is because we are permissive. The reason wanasiasa wetu wako na hiyo mchezo wako nayo ni juu tumewakubalia, ni juu tumekuwa soft wakatuzoea. So you asked me a question about what happens to corrupt individuals. I'm sorry to tell you that nothing will happen unless we change the political system in Kenya. I'm sorry to report to you that absolutely nothing, NOTHING, will happen to any of the corrupt leaders in Kenya. Let me I know the show is supposed to end, but will you allow me to explain to you how corruption
Yes, go ahead. We'll make that extension for you. Yeah.
Corruption in Kenya begins with the private sector. Kwa hivyo corruption si wanasiasa peke yake. It is even in the private sector, in private companies. Mtu anakuwa kwa hospitali, tuseme hospitali tuite life care hospital. Anakuwa hospital admin. Huko kwa hospitali ama hospital manager. Huko kwa hospitali wanaibia mwenyewe. Si mnajua nyi watu wa diaspora, si mnatumianga watu pesa ya kujenga nyumba hapa, mtu anakupigia picha za nyumba si yako. Si mnaibiwangwa, si mnaoshwangwa.
Ile mbaya.
Na mashamba maploti, si mnatumanga pesa hapo ununuliwe ploti, mnasafishwa.
Broti makuta.
Mnapewa title fake, ukifika kwa ground unaambiwa hiyo sio yako. So that's what happens, There is an erosion of ethics in our moral fabric, kwamba watu ni wakora. Sasa unaona ama land broker wenye wanawakoningi mashamba, hao ndio wenda wanasimama viti za siasa hao sasa. So mnaelewa now where it starts. It starts in the private sector. Mtu anakuwa principal wa shule, anakuwa mwizi kwanza, alafu anaenda kuwa MCA. Ama mtu anakuwa manager wa bank, anakuwa mwizi kwanza, ndio anaenda kuwa mbunge. Ama mtu anakuwa manager wa hospital, anakuwa mwizi kwanza, ndio anaenda kuwa mbunge. So it begins in the private sector. Me mwenyewe Morara, in my business, I employ over 85 people, by the way. And in my business, me mwenyewe nimewahi ibiwa in one sweep 4.5 million.
What?
By one. I had to arrest them at night at 3 a.m. at night, and I lost sleep for a week. I was depressed. You don't employ a Kenyan bila yeye kufikiria kukuibia. So there is that erosion of ethics. Na pia imechangiwa pia na wanasiasa and fake pastors. Because hao ndio watu wameerode ethics. Unapata mtoto sahi ako shule, anasoma, but haelewi mahali masomo itampeleka, because watu wanaona wakisucceed in life ni wenye wana cut shortcuts. So unapata an employee in a company amejiambia, wacha nifanye kazi kwa hii kampuni, niibe pesa, niende nikaanzishe yangu. That's the mind of 80% of the employees that are in business in Kenya. And that's the mind of Kenyans. You see, you elect what you are. Wakenya lazima tubadilishe tabia.
Kabisa.
If we are demanding ethics from politicians, we must be ethical ourselves. Mahali umewekwa, in the small space that you occupy, if you are a watchman, wacha kufungulia wezi wakuje kuibia mkubwa wako. If you are a Kenya Power meter reader, read the correct meter. Wacha kusoma erroneous figures, upe mtu a bloated bill ati ndia kubribe upunguze bill. If you are a matatu person, na we ni makanga, umepewa thao, ninaenda Rongai, toa 150 yako, nirudishie 850 yangu. Wacha kusema umenipea 100. Unaona? If you are a Kenyan, na unajua vizuri, hii si iPhone, is a fake one. Niambie, boss, tuko na mbili. Tuko na fake na original. Fake tunauza hivi, original tunauza hivi. Be realistic. Let's be ethical as Kenyans in the transaction of business, in the transaction of everyday life. Ukitumiwa pesa kutoka diaspora, umeambiwa hii ni ya kununua kitu fulani, nunua, wacha kudanganya. Wacha kuambia mtu wako diaspora jua yuko kwa ground, unamwambia Morara, nimeenda kwa Morara, nimenunua sofa set 110,000. Na mimi nimekuuzia 80. Kumbe umeosha huyu mtu wako diaspora all 30,000. Sasa anafikiria Morara anauzanga vitu expensive, and it's not true. Siku atakuja kugundua ni 80 wakati amerifaa rafiki yake akuje kununua uziwe 80, he will think Morara alimkona. Kumbe ni wewe. So as Kenyans tubadilishe tabia kwanza. Now let's go to how corruption moves from private sector to public sector. Sasa huyu mtu mwenye ametoka kwa wizi, alikuwa manager wa Quickmart, sasa amesimama governor. Amekuja sasa kusimama na pesa ya wizi. The other thing that will happen, juu anataka kuwa governor, kuna watu wanataka tenders kwa hiyo county. Kuna watu maybe wamekuwa wakisupply insurance. Na ujue insurance ya county is usually a lot of money. It runs to billions. because we are talking about group personal accident for all workers, work injury benefits for all workers, medical insurance for all workers, motor vehicle insurance for all county government vehicles. Those are billions in insurance premiums. So broker mwenye alikuwa na hiyo deal already ashaangalia kisiasa nani anaenda kuwa next. If it's an area in Nyanza, anajua obvious mwenye anaenda kuwin ni ODM. So the governor holds a dinner to raise financing for the campaign. Who tenderpreneur analeta 30 million. Na mwingine ataleta mwenye amekuwa akifanya contract za barabara, na mwenye amekuwa akifanya contract za street light, na mwenye amekuwa akileta madawa hospitalini. Suddenly this governor has 300 million to run a campaign. So he will win. But to whom does he owe his loyalty? It is to the tenderpreneur and the cartels that have brought him to power. So unapata kiongozi anaingia kwa kiti kama tayari yako compromised. So from day one, ile siku ya swearing in, tayari this person is owned by cartels. They own him. So everything atafanya from that day, before he advertises a tender, he consults the cartels. The cartels tell him how to frame the tender. He frames the tender. They've already won it even before it's advertised. In fact, sometimes unapata the cartels already have a letter of award of tender that has no date. Wanangoja tu kuweka tarehe. Now, if you become very wise and take that tender to court, these people, they are ahead of you. Sometimes they take the case to court themselves. They hire a proxy to take the case to court, but they take it to a certain court, to a certain judge. Unapata hawataki kufile case hii wiki. Wanataka kufile next week when so and so is the duty judge. So that now they give that judge 10 million or 5 million, then the judge gives very fake orders. And the project continues. Sometimes they even take these cases to court themselves using proxies to sanitize it.
Wow.
Aya, mumechagua mbunge. Mbunge ameenda parliament. The only thing they do there is it's an extortion ring. Me, I used to go to offices. I find members of parliament seated in the waiting rooms of cabinet secretaries, in the waiting rooms of PSS, in the waiting rooms of heads of parastatals. And what are they doing? They've come to beg. They've come to beg for handouts. They've come to beg for tenders. Wewe kama mbunge ukisuggest kwamba unataka barabara fulani ijengwe ya kutoka point A to point B crossing over to point C, the first thing the director of Kera or Kura asks you is, do you have a contractor? Uko na mtu preferred ili ile kickback ikusaidie kufanya siasa. And because we've commercialized our politics, a member of parliament cannot survive on his 1 million salary. Because how many fundraising does he have in a week? Ako na matanga 6. Kila matanga 20k, 20k, 20k. Hiyo ni 120,000. Na michango ya watoto wanaenda shule. Na V8 kuenda Ocha kuona kwa watu. Na watu wa boda. So in a week, this MP spends at the bare minimum 300,000.
Wow.
In a month, this person spends 1.2 million. Is it really sensible that it is true that he's spending his whole salary giving to wananchi? That's why civic education is needed to decommercialize politics. So these people can survive on what they are paid. Because now, they're still on the excuse that unajua lazima nifike ground na sina kitu. Aya, whenever they summon a cabinet secretary to appear before parliament, every cabinet secretary has his broker. But this is something I'm telling you that's very real. I have political experience. These are people who are known to me. I know them. Every CS has a broker. So whenever you are summoned to appear before a parliamentary committee, you send your broker. Your broker goes and sees the chairman of the committee's broker. Then 2 brokers talk. How much money do you guys need? 14 members. Each member wants 200,000. That's 2.8 million.
Where?
Or 14 members, each member wants 500,000. That's 7 million. The CS sends the money to the broker. By the time he's appearing before a parliamentary committee to answer very serious questions that are regarding the lives of Kenyans, he's already compromised. Already washamununua. Sasa they are just doing a charade for TV. They are doing it for TV. That's why nothing has ever come out of those heated debates that you see in parliament. It is a multiplication of 0 raised to power infinity. Hakunanga kitu, inakuanga tu ni it's a charade, ni kipindi tumeandaliwa view sasa. Tutazame televisheni tujibambe.
Where?
So the senator been very strict, asking very serious questions, but he's asking because hajapewa yake. Ama amepewa lakini yeye ndiye alikuwa designated aulize maswali kali ndio at least wananchi waone kazi inafanyika.
Wow. Okay.
Today William Ruto appoints Morara Kebaso as cabinet secretary. I will not accept it. Because the first thing that will happen is if he appoints me, I need to go through parliamentary vetting, and the first people I'll see at my door are brokers coming to tell me what sijali about the vetting committee. Sisi tutakuchungia hao, wanasema wanataka pesa ngapi? Milioni 2 that's 28 million. Sisi tutashughulika. Wewe mkubwa wewe tulia. They own you even before you are appointed. Let's come to independent institutions. The constitution created independent offices. Office of the Auditor General, Office of the Inspector General, Teacher Service Commission, Kenya Police Service. It created the Public Service Commission, National Police Service Commission. The Directorate of Criminal Investigation is an independent office under the constitution. But kwa hao watu wote nimetaja, nani mwayeona akifanya kazi yake independently?
None, 0.
Why? Because they devised a way, before they appoint you to an independent office, you sign 2 letters. A letter of appointment and a resignation letter without a date. So you are the director of public prosecutions, but the president in his drawer has a letter of resignation without a date. Ile siku unasikia kutofanya vitu vile anataka, he just puts a date. You watch on the news that you've resigned. Some of the people that have resigned in this country, kama Japhet Koome, if it's just that they are bound by the National Oaths and Secrecy Act, and they are also afraid of what government can do to them because it can kill them, or it can go after the illegitimately wealth that they've acquired by holding positions of influence. So for that reason, they keep quiet. But if they were to tell you the truth, they didn't resign. They saw it on TV the same way you saw it.
Where?
And this is an independent office. You know, the constitution was not dumb. There's a reason it made those particular offices independent. It's so that these people cannot, wave around. They cannot be like a lone tree in an empty field, bending whichever way the wind blows. Let's now go to corruption within the ministries. Corruption within the ministries.
Hello?
Okay.
Morara, we've lost you. We've
frozen.
lost your sound. I think.
Wametunyonga.
Okay. No, I think I'm a mute side yake because.
No, he's not.
No, it's
frozen.
It's frozen.
Okay. Aya, sawa. As we're gonna try to get back to Morara.
Yeah, we should try and wrap up if we can't get.
We should
get him back.
Yeah, because okay, I think it was so fire. Sijui kama ni watu wa NIS
hapa kuna watu wamefanya
ama ni Zoom imeleta
imepita time limit.
No, like we're trying as we're trying to get back to Morara and Eleni ku inject, like the people who've been contributing. I mean, he was so much on fire. Maybe there's some external forces walikuwa hataki amalizele kitu alikuwa anasema, but I think Morara has really given us.
I think what happened, I think Zoom just quit.
Okay, so
Zoom might have quit, but
okay, but is he still connected on Zoom?
No, he's not.
Okay,
just have him see if he can call back.
Okay, sawa. Wacha Morara, kama unatusikia, try calling back on Zoom. Because I think you've been disconnected from Zoom. So ama labda
that means even Mika has been disconnected. Mika,
are you still there?
We can call back.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yes. Now we can hear you. But weka landscape. Yeah, okay. There we go.
Kuna mtu amecompromise Zoom, hata mimi nilipotea.
Yeah, kuna mtu I think watu hao watu wa NIS wako tuned in.
That means even make us disconnect.
Kamika
there.
I Mika mute side yako.
Yeah, I'm back right now. I'm back right now.
Now we can hear you. But work a landscape. Yeah, okay. There we go.
No, I think I think it's echoing.
Somebody's.
I think what NIS were tuned in.
You guys, you should not underrate what NIS can do, by the way. I've seen what they've done to some of my phones.
Okay.
Those guys are no joke.
Okay. Unaweza kuiweka landscape because uko
That's what I'm trying to do. I don't know where that thing is.
Okay.
Is it an Android or if it's an iPhone? You
can iPhone.
How do I go about it?
There is you can pull down the menu and they've got that thing that looks like a padlock with that.
Oh, you.
Yeah, alafu there hapo sasa. I think hapo pale ulikuwa umefika.
Haya, Wakenya hamjambo.
Hamjambo.
Tayari. Hapa nimeshaweka pesa. Nilikuwa nimeweka mpango ingine. Can I finish?
Yes, please. By all means.
You know, I was explaining to you how corruption works.
In the ministry, yes.
And in the ministry, it works in the state agencies, where I was telling you about how much I will have to sell this phone to government. And I told you that I may have to sell this phone at 2 million bob to the government because I have to budget, number one, for corruption, then I have to budget for pending bills. Because I'm supplying this phone to government today, I'm not sure when I'll be paid, and I'm not sure how much money I will spend to be paid. One of the greatest jobs that MPs and senators are doing is to follow up pending bills for contractors. That's one of their greatest source of money. So when you are a contractor who has not been paid by government, you find a senator or an MP, you pay them or you promise them a percentage of the money. They follow it up for you. If you're paid, you release some of the money. So you find government owes you money, but you're being told out of that money it owes you. Kama uko ready kutoa 30% ni sawa, tunaweza kulipa next week. Aya, let's continue. Kwa hiyo mambo ya corruption. You come to the agency that is supposed to fight corruption, EACC. Itself is corrupt. It already has corrupt people inside the EACC. So what will you do inside this EACC that already has corrupt people inside? So mnaona hapo kidogo kizungumkuti. Because you find EACC people coming to you, but they are not coming to you to arrest you, take you to court. They are coming to see ulibakisha nini. Aya, tuondoke hapo. Let's come to political parties. One of the baddest things that has happened to Kenya ni vitu ya kingpin. The kingpin of your region literally owns you like his bitch. Unapata kama wewe ni governor wa ODM, pesa yako utapeleka kwa Raila upende usipende. Which are the most undeveloped counties in Kenya? Sini ODM counties.
True.
Yeah? You still with me?
No, true. True story. That's a true story.
Ni counties gani ziko na the highest amount of looting of public funds? Ni ODM counties. Why? Because Baba needs money. If you are a Wiper governor, yako unapeleka kwa Kalonzo. If you are a UDA governor, unapeleka yako kwa Gachagua. If you are a UDA governor from Rift Valley, yako inaenda kwa Faruk Kibet, ultimately to the boss. So unapata you are a governor under pressure. Umewekewa target. Unafaa per week kuleta milioni 100 ama milioni 200. Inatoka wapi? Lazima uibe. Na ukiiba, hautaiba milioni 200. Lazima uibe milioni 400 ndio ubaki na 200, wape 200. Juu ile siku vitu zitaharibika ni wewe watakujia. To make it worse, siku yenye wameamua kukupeleka kotini, they always make sure you have a lawyer. And in many cases, it's Katwa Kigen, Amenasir Abdullahi, or Kioko Kilukumi.
Where?
You are told, tumekuletea wakili. Usijali kiongozi. Tuko na wewe mpaka mwisho. We are with you in this journey. Kumbe hujaletewa wakili ya kutetee. Umeletewa wakili ya make sure utaji jina ya boss. is corruption everywhere. There is fake schools receiving government capitation. Sakaja is running a white elephant program called school feeding program for looting of public funds. There are fake police stations in Kenya receiving fuel. Kwani si uongo bana?
No, we saw you walking in one.
We saw you went to one.
Simuliniona niliingia
mpaka mkaingia kwa cell, mpaka kwa Amari.
Mpaka kwa Amari.
Unaona hiyo police station vile unaiona hivi? Uende kwa records za Ministry of Interior kwa National Police Service. Utapata, it will shock you to find that na si moja, ziko kadhaa around Kenya. Utapata hiyo kitu is receiving money.
Wow.
Where? Yani corruption is it is so deep, it's so big. When you try to challenge corruption, the kind of calls you get, they are from the very, very top. Let me give you an example where the president himself called to stop a corruption investigation. Na hii atakataa tu, sini nature yao kukataa. Wacha wakataa hii. Wacha niiseme, the people of Kenya wasikie. Wao watakataa baadaye, ni haki yao kukataa.
Exclusive.
There is land that is near Kiang'ombe. You see where the inland container depot is in Nairobi, pale Embakasi.
Yes.
Hapo kuna kabarabara kanyuma hivi kanaitwa Kiang'ombe hapo. Like if you are using the road hiyo ya inland container depot, ICD road, uende kujoin Southern Bypass, on the left kuna kabarabara pale kwa kona unaingia hivi kanaitwa Kiang'ombe road. Hiyo barabara ukienda nayo, Joho wako na kampuni ya shipping hapo inaitwa Autoport. Opposite hiyo kampuni ya Joho ya Autoport, kuna shamba hapo 90 acres. Ina share fence na Nairobi National Park. That land, people were allotted titles in the 1990s, and they were being allotted some by Kenya industrial estates, and it was the government's way of trying to encourage business people to industrialize that area. So ikakuwa inawa-allot leases. Now recently, the PS for lands, Nixon Korir, wali-organize na watu wake, they issued a fake title to a fake group called Dupoto Settlement Scheme. Walichukua watu watatu wakasema ndio officials wa watu wana settle hiyo area. Ati hao watu ndio wamekuwa akiishi hapo, ndio inhabitants. Wakaregister a fake thing called Dupoto Settlement Scheme. Nixon Korir akawaorganizea title mbio. Title iko dated 2024, si 2024 ama 2023. Title aliwatolea title 2023 mbio sana. Akawapea. Alipowapea, Kenya Railways Corporation ikasema it wants to acquire the land for a project. So Kenya Railways bought the land, yet it owned it from the beginning. Kitambo before 1990s, 1990s when people are being allotted this title, the land belonged to Kenya Railways. It belonged to government. So government was buying government land. Do you know how much they stole? 2.7 billion Kenya shillings.
Where?
Ililipwa December tarehe 14 to these proxies wa Dupoto settlement schemes, waka withdraw cash, wakapea wadosi wao.
Wow.
DCI investigated this case, DCI Land Fraud Office, and even arrested those people. But do you know where the call came from? It came from the very top. DCI akaambiwa achana hiyo kesi na ali drop like a hot potato.
Wow. Morara.
Hiyo ni pesa imepotea tu. Now uniambie kwa hii serikali ni kesi gani hiyo ya corruption utaguza? So when this guy asked me what will happen to corrupt individuals, my brother, I'm sorry, nothing will happen.
Okay.
Because their father is there and is the president.
Wow. Morara, yani, I think we need to have a part 2 of this. Because yani hata pale tumefika, yani I'm still shocked at every frame, and more people are jumping in on YouTube and when us, because this information is so overwhelming, and I think people are a little bit you know, this is much more than people knew there was corruption, but hawakujua
it's more
the
than
level
what they
of
signed up
corruption.
for.
Yeah, but Uno Mike, wahenga wanasemaje?
Wahenga walinena kilicho na mwanzo hakina budi kuwa na mwisho, meli imetia nanga. We are about to wrap this puppy up. I don't know what happened to Morara. Disappear.
Ayuko kwa Zoom ama ametoka kwa video?
Zoom ime.
Okay.
I think hiyo simu yake imekuwa compromised.
Yeah, no, ni sawa. Yeah, yuko.
No,
I think.
No.
Okay, all right. Ata nini ata connect tena. But anyway, we're coming to an end.
Hakuna mtu ya IT.
No, he's not logged in.
No, hapa
tutamwita.
Yeah, tutamwita Louis. No worries, but
so we'll wait for him if he's going to connect, so they can have him connect.
No, yeah, he has the link, so he's
Okay.
going to connect, but I think we just need to start wrapping up.
Yeah.
Tuanze na nani? Tuanze na Mika, and then tutakuja hivi kwa studio.
Mika.
Wacha nikushow. Mimi siendi Kenya Desemba. Tutashikiwa hapo kwa airport.
Umeingiza baridi?
Mimi nilichange jina yangu.
Expose imetokea hapa. Na ingeendelea hapa ndo nalifika asubuhi. But all in all, I guess there's some things whereby it gets to a point and you realize that things are not as they look like. I don't know if you guys are surprised as I am, because mimi nimesikia stories zingine. Unajua nishasikia zingine lakini nimesikia zingine zaidi na nimesikia zingine up to a point I'm like, damn. Keep doing what you're doing, Morara, and people actually need to protect this boy and continue working with him to get more information on what is happening and exposing it and teaching the people on how things are being stolen, and so that we can get rid of some of the normal politics that is in Kenya. Because we saw that when people are saying that Occupy Parliament was coming out and the whole politicians realized that they're going to go out. Politicians don't agree unless it's to protect themselves and benefit themselves. And that is why I myself was so pissed off about ODM contributing those politicians. Even when Sifuna was here trying to tell us that those are old politicians, whatever it is. You people are just the same thing. You went together to protect yourselves. And it shows, because this is a business. It's not about leadership. It's not about taking care of the country. It's a business. Everybody's going there to get themselves rich. At this point, do I trust anybody, any of those politicians? No. So it's up to people like Morara and people like me and you to figure out how we're going to change things in that country and how we're going to improve that country to provide a future for the future generation. Kwanza nyi watu diaspora, nyi watu mnapiganga doubles. You don't have a life. You make all this money, don't have a life. Go back home, invest so much money in those buildings you're building, buying farms, all those projects you're investing for. To a country for people who just want to drain it out and take all your money, you should be mad about that. You should start holding people accountable. And I'll be honest here, as diasporas, we are the worst political consumers. We are the most tribal political consumers, even more than Kenyans. We don't want to reason, like we're people who actually know we're working in working systems. When it comes to Kenyan politics, we always go to our tribal gods and whoever we want to protect. This here is a reality and an eye-opener that you're not helping anybody by helping those people. But either you're working for them and you're helping them. So if you want your people to benefit the way when you protect your people and you say that when you protect those politicians and say that you want your people to benefit, if you want your people to benefit, you have to look more into how we are stopping this corruption monster that's in the country. And that starts by what started with the Gen Z movement, what's currently going on right now. We have to continue figuring out on how we are supporting it. I'm sorry for going into such a long tangent that seems like I was lecturing people, But I guess it's at that point whereby we need to figure out, are we just talk, or are we actually guys of action? Back to you in the studio.
What? Okay.
All right, guys, I'm back.
Okay, sawa tutakuja kwako.
Tutakuja kwako.
We are wrapping up. Tuende kwa Val kwanza, and then tutakuja kwa Omosh.
Well,
your last minute.
I'm just processing. A lot has been said. Na Mika ameuliza swali, are we just talking or are we going to be people of action? I see 581 people on the chat, and I challenge everyone here is on this chat today. It's not many of us who can go to Kenya right now. Si kila mtu anaweza fanya a civic education like Morara right now, but one thing that we can do right now is to inject. I challenge 567 people. Hata usitume pesa nyingi, $10 to Morara to continue with this good work. Me, I'm going to sleep on everything. I think I feel so much anger, so much fire at the same time. I'm not the most eloquent person, but unajua watu wengine sisi ni watu wa action pia, tuongeangi sana. So I challenge everyone to do, and sorry guys, I'm so overwhelmed. Miss Jika watu wana feel venye mi na feel. But
we're going to process as we are driving home.
One thing I'll say about Ruto is when he's not flying, he is lying.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Morara. God bless you.
Aye. DJ Mosh Fire.
Hapo kwa processing, sijui, what is it, absorbing, sitting back and chambuaring, I'm in that WhatsApp group. And whatever it is that you people can do as our audience, as our friends, as Kenyans. Remember, we're all Kenyans in this, and this is about our country, our future, and what it is that we can do to steer it the right way. Corruption is imetumaliza, plain and simple. Imetumaliza. Me, I can tell you that my shags, where I come from, we live by the lake. No running water. We don't have any roads that are tarmacked. Most of our transportation is done over water, meaning we use boats or any sort of, I guess I would say, something that moves on water. That's how we move around. That's easier than using a road. So, things in terms of when you talk about the ODM counties not having, I see it every time when I go shags, and it's something that we're used to. I mean, I didn't get electricity in shags until 2011.
Wow.
So for me, the way I look at some of these things, I think I look at them in terms of like not having a tarmac road. I'm used to it.
It's normal.
It's normal. Not having running water, used to it. Piped water, that's a dream. What is that? These things of Atisiji borehole. Man, let me tell you, all those things are dreams for us. So when you see some of these, the amount of monies that have supposedly been spent and the projects that supposedly were, what is the right word, put together and were put off, and money has been put in there that supposedly we got a road. That road, I think, has been built like CG 10 times. But we've never seen the road. So, I understand, I get it, I see it. Whatever it is we can do as Kenyans, we should do. And don't forget, the number is pinned.
Kazirika.
Yes. Encourage your people at home and talk to the people at home. Being that we are here, these guys actually listen to us. And a lot of that happens because we send money. So it's like, you may not know it, but you actually do have some power. Just what you say coming out of your mouth to these folks. And it's very simple. Go look at this or look at this and look at that. It actually wakes them up. So for those of you who can put something towards this cause, the number is pinned there. It's, +254 708 985 611. And if you're able to, go ahead and send Kitu Kudogo. towards the cause. This is sad. We've watched these things on YouTube. We've seen him do it. He's talked to us here, and it hits home when you sit back and you imagine and you think of the amount of money and how some of the folks who are taking and continue to take and are always going to take live like kings, and you're struggling here in the US or wherever it is that you are in the diaspora, as well as your people are struggling, and you still ingest more money in there, but there's nothing to show for it. And it's not ever stopping. It's like a black hole. You constantly are throwing your money down a black hole. We have to stop it. And we are the change that we want. So we have to put in the work, the time, and make the change. Thank you, Morara, for coming to the show. See you guys next week.
All right, Asante-san. I think let's give Morara, the last word before we come and wrap this up. So Morara, go ahead, and then we're going to come to wrap this up.
All right. So one thing we don't want to do in this process of trying to shape up our country and ship out corrupt leaders is we don't want to lie. Our leaders already lie. And if we also try to use lies against them as a way of getting them out of power, we lose it, because then we lose our credibility. So I went and looked for documents. Hii sidhani mtaona hii. I mean, for you on the camera. Are you able to read?
No, it's blurry.
No, it's blurry.
I think
because of the blood background. Yeah, because of the blood background. So it.
Okay, so this is a lease, huh?
Yeah.
This is a lease dated. This is a certificate of lease. It's a title of lease. It's dated 1st day of April 2023. It's the lease that was given to these three people that I was saying were wanini. Walikuwa wapora. Then the amount of rent they were supposed to pay was 72 bob. For 99 years, 72 bob. That's what supposed to pay as peppercorn. Aya. Kisonga mbele, you will find the pictures of those three people. So this is a case I'm going to pursue. Some people, some good, well-meaning Kenyans have already taken it to court. So it has active court orders. In fact, there is some money that is in one of the lawyers' accounts that has been frozen because of this particular case. So some people are already doing something about it. But that, I was just giving it as a case, and a case in point. Mm-hmm. There are some of the questions that that guy had asked me that I wish I would have had time to respond to. But briefly, for his own satisfaction, I'll tell him that Kenya already has campaign financing laws. And as I had said earlier, and we repeat again, the problem in Kenya is not lack of laws, it's that those laws are not followed. So it's not like we need new laws. It's that we are not following them and nobody cares. So I don't think any more laws will have a major or significant shift. We just need to remove impunity from our leadership. Then he also told me about what I said about the creatives and the music industry. Indeed, these people have immense influence. Musicians, comedians, content creators, these are celebrities. People admire them. People, whenever they appear, people want to take selfies with them. The question I want to ask the creatives in our country is, what do you want to use your fame and your repute for? Do you want to use it to get models as girlfriends? Do you want to use it for money? Do you want to use it to be brand ambassadors of companies? Or do you also want to use it to make a better country? Because if you have 3 million followers on Instagram, 1 million followers on Facebook, and 1 million followers, I don't know, on TikTok, I don't understand why you are not using your very, very big, immense platform to communicate good governance and anti-corruption, because most of the creatives have fence sitters. We just have a few like Nonini doing really good music, Shanky. We have people like Oeba doing spoken word. We have people like Kena producing content, Njugush. But most of the other creatives, they are totally, you cannot hear about them. The rappers that used to rap a lot here, and the singers that sing, they are not singing about bad governance and about corruption. So the question is, why are they sitting on the fence? During the demonstration, some of them tried, they turned up, they participated in the concerts, but after that they've disappeared. So I don't know whether they've achieved their goal or lost it. So the creatives really need to come up because they can be a game changer. Sorry, 1 minute. The creatives need really to come up because they can be a game changer in this whole space. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, there is one more thing I wanted to speak about. I hope you're not in a hurry. Let me just say it briefly. Sports in Kenya is dead. And it's dead because the government has killed it. Sports in Kenya, according to me, it has an opportunity of creating several jobs and branding Kenya abroad very seriously. But in Kenya here, when you run very well as an athlete, ukimbie vizuri, wanakuandika upolisi. Or they give you a job in the military. And it's very intentional because they want to keep you quiet. They know when you are a member of the disciplined forces, you cannot strike, you cannot complain. So we have sports people going through a lot, but they can't speak because they are members of disciplined forces. Wanakuwa wamekuandika upolisi ama umilitary. Then they misuse these sports people. It is only in Kenya where you find 15 officials going to the Olympics. They've already had their visas. They're already in the plane, but they've forgotten the sportsman at the airport. The person who is going to perform, mwenye anaenda kukimbia, mwenye anaenda kuthrow javelin, mumemsahau kwa airport. Officials na maslay tayari wako kwa ndege wamelanda Paris. It gets you to the point of wondering, so who are you going to watch in Paris? Sports in Kenya has a lot of potential in terms of branding Kenya both home and abroad. We need to take sports very seriously. It needs to be part of our life. We need to give financial education to sports people in Kenya so that they know how to better manage their finances. We need post-traumatic disorder training and emotional support for sports people. It is here in Kenya where a sports person gets an injury and they behave like those people were Ikolomani, where when a bull that is fighting gets an injury, they slaughter it. So in Kenya, when a sports person gets an injury, they throw that person away, they get another one. It's as if these people are not human. It's as if they are just cash cows. Sports people don't even have a representation in the sports agencies that are in Kenya. So there are many things that are wrong with our country. But as I've told you today, diasporians and everybody watching us today, there is something you can do. You who is watching me, you are not powerless. There is something you can do. It may not be as pronounced as Morara because we have a different calling in life. My calling and your calling is different. But there is something in the small space that you occupy, in the little network that you have, there is something you can do. And it begins with civic education. After civic education, political organization. After political organization, complete expulsion of all corrupt leaders and incompetent people from our governance structures. Remember, we can have a good constitution, we can have good laws, but for as long as we have criminals leading those institutions, there's nothing that will ever come out of it. So we need men and women of integrity to hold those positions and midwife the change that we want. And change is coming to Kenya now. So mambo ya next year wachana nayo. Mambo ya next year part 1 next week, no. We are going to do it now. So thank you for the contributions given me. I'm going to read out how much I've received. And I'm going to be very specific about what I'm going to do with those contributions. And you will see me do it because I'm accountable.
Okay. Aya. Tutatuambia ni how much. Hapa, according to Talia Tabitha Njeri, who's been doing a very diligent job with Washeke Ndirangu, wako na Talia $1,066. So I don't know how much that is in Kenyan money. Kuna zingine tunaweza kuwa tumemiss because maybe the people who sent did not report, but that's what we've reported so far. And thank you so much. I appreciate everyone who contributed anything from $10 to Tabitha who contributed $200. we really appreciate, you know, like hiyo hapo. Sijui kama uko na namba yako right now ama kama you'll tell us baadaye, that's okay too. Morara,
I can tell you now.
yes, so give us the number that you have right now.
All right, so let me do a small calculation here. 017 minus let's go back.
Yeah, because Tabitha inaonyesha $1,066. When you multiply that by, I think, sijui kama ni dola imefika 130, ni 128. Okay. Na kuna watu wa wale.
Hiyo yenu inakuja how much?
Yetu inakuja $1,066. Si tuko nayo in dollars. So
in Kenya shillings inakuja ngapi?
Hebu fanya hiyo ka math.
About
1,066. About 136,000.
448-ish.
Well, mine is more.
Uh-huh.
Because mine is 207,000.
Wow. Okay. So I think Yako has picked up the ones that did not report.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are people who sent me, like, for example, there's my classmate who I went to school with, Abednego Nyakundi. He sent 5,000, but sijaona ki-comment hapo.
Okay. Aya. So but lakini amekuwa tuned in.
Amekuwa tuned in.
Okay. So 207,000 shillings raised.
That's what we've raised, yes.
On one episode. You know, like,
in one episode, yes.
Yeah, not even planned, but it shows how people are motivated and how people are ready for this change. People are willing to give their money. I am so glad Diaspora hawakutuaibisha, because it's Mama Mbogas who are giving you their money. You know, when Mama Mboga or mtu wa boda boda akikupatia 50 bob, that is so much money.
That's
you know, I don't think people realize this.
That's a lot of money.
That is so much money, and to me, it really touches my heart that such people are actually sacrificing, you know, like the monies that they could have used maybe to buy extra food for their family, to just try to see if we can get better governance. So kama vile Morara alisema, no excuses this time. Hata kama unaenda na msichana date, ama kama ni msichana unaenda na mwanaume date, at least 5 minutes dedicated to conversations about good governance. Na akikata
civic education.
Civic education and good governance. Na akikata huyo pia mkatae. Reject hiyo hapo.
Reject.
Atolewe. Yeah, because from now on we'll be injecting. And then another thing I forgot to say, Gidraff in Pennsylvania and so many other people have been telling me to tell you, Morara, we want to invite you to the US. Kuna watu wengi hapa sana wamevolunteer watakuhost. So I will follow up with Gidraff on that. Tujue vile tunaweza kuleta Morara into the United States, ndo akuje aone some of these bodies that have been choking Kenya with debt for so many years.
Na hiyo barabara yake kutoka ilitoka wapi?
Seattle.
Kutoka
Yes.
Minnesota.
New Jersey. Yeah, Seattle. Yeah, so and then let me see. Ebu wacha nimpatie Val, kuna kitu Val hapo anataka ku-announce.
Nimeona a lot of people asking that they didn't get the memo that Morara was going to be here. So just follow the our Diaspora page on IG. It's Kenya Diaspora Voices. Kenya Diaspora Voices on IG.
Yes, and then there's also a WhatsApp group. You can inbox anyone here, inbox the One Mic Show, and you'll be sent for a link to the WhatsApp group to join. Ndo tuendelee kuinject so that Morara and other people like Morara can continue doing this amazing job. Na kwa yoyote,
let me tell you guys what I'm going to do with whatever we've raised.
Yes, go ahead.
Kabla ya Tuesday, we will have an office.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Kabla ya Tuesday, we will have an office, and it's not my personal office, ni yenu. In fact, if you land in Kenya and the people at the hotel that were supposed to host you are not picking up, come and sleep at the office.
Ba, sasa
umeambia One Mic the wrong
one. Okay, sawa. Now you see the power of small contributions.
The office will be very important because kuna watu hadi utaka kuvolunteer to just be researchers,
yeah,
but they don't have a place to sit and work from.
Okay.
We have a vehicle that has a sound system, and we don't have sometimes we don't have a place to park it, and parking it at home imekuwa tricky.
Okay.
We need to have meetings for strategy on how we want to do civic education and how we can partner with other organizations. And sometimes I've been doing those meetings in my house, which is very risky because then it means the NIS can infiltrate one of the people and bring a bag to my house where my children are living.
Mm-hmm.
There are times I usually hold press conferences, and sometimes I have to hold those press conferences in my house. Very risky also because somebody can come as a press person and they implant something in the house. So I need to disassociate my house where my children lived with the office so that I do public work in the office. Again, there are whistleblowers who are usually unable to reach me on phone but could have come to the office. So huko kwa ofisi, they can send a proxy to bring documents. So itakuwa muhimu sana kuwa na hiyo ofisi, and I can assure you that before Tuesday it will be there. It will also be the home to our political organization. Even as we move into the future, chochote chenye mtataka kupanga, ofisi iko.
Okay. Ofisi iko location gani ama it's not known as of now?
We have 3 locations as at now that we are reviewing. I'd already looked at one in Kawaskari. There's another one in Muthaiga.
Mm-hmm.
Or we didn't want an office in a flat, in a building. We wanted it in an own compound so that we are able to set up our own infrastructure.
Okay.
In terms of security. So we have 2 of them, one in Muthaiga, one in Kawaskari. So kabla ya Monday, we'll have reviewed them and known which one to do. I'm currently out of the country because I've come to check if I can move my business kidogo from Kenya, because the government has been targeting me a lot in business, and I need to survive.
Okay.
So I've come to look at a way of moving operations.
Okay. And another quick thing that I'll tell you on air right here, Morara, because na joke in the furniture business, uko mambo ya mbao. So you're talking to someone who also works for the same business in the United States. So where tuongee kando.
Nyuma ya tent.
Yes, tuongee kando nyuma ya tent, because this is an industry that's still fairly in the cottage stage in Kenya. But I'll tell you, I can't mention the company I work for, but I'll tell you, it's a company that does around $30 million a year.
Unajua Ali amekuja kama Yesu, fundi wa mbao.
Yes.
What? Hey, Mika umekuwa ukisavio.
Yes.
He's been saving it for a while.
Yes, I know. Mika amekuwa akisavio.
Amekuwa akisave for a while.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes. Inshallah.
Yes. So hapo Morara, there's so many things, there's so many notes that we can exchange. Iyo tafanya kando hiyo hapo, because like there are so many things that I've seen on that industry here in the US that if implemented in Kenya, it can become a very good industry that will employ so many people.
Umeona mbali na hiyo?
No, absolutely.
Yesu.
Haya, sawa. Kwa yule yote ambaye anataka kunipigia simu, nambari yangu bado ni ile 1-800 mteule. Na operator akishika simu, mwambie unataka kusema na mjukuu. Na akikuuliza ni mjukuu yupi, unamkumbusha ni mjukuu yule wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, and Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui, na sibagui. Kwaherini.
Aiden, Daddy loves you. Jerry, Daddy loves you. Nemo, Daddy loves you. Until next week, be blessed.
Asante.